Good morning and welcome to the Mike Graham Show. What a great tie that is. I haven't realised how great it is. Do you know, I've got William Yarwood here with me. William, very good morning.
Morning, Mike.
Nice to see you. Glad I wasn't sure you were going to make it after last night.
Oh, mate, I was always going to make it.
We'll talk about that in a minute. But look, check this tie out, right? Normally I don't wear these kinds of ties, but yesterday an amazing thing happened. Jeff Banks, you know, extraordinary, brilliantly famous designer, Savile Row merchant, sent me a box of ties. Right, so this is the first one. So I thought I'd wear it today in honour of Jeff Banks. So thank you, Jeff. Very kind of you. I quite like it. What do you think? It's not normally the kind of tie I would wear.
No, but it suits you, mate. It's like flowery.
I like the colour. Yeah, it's nice. So we've got a lot of disasters to talk about this morning. The disaster of England losing and getting knocked out of the World Cup by Argentina. The disaster of appointing a German manager that they thought would be any better than any other manager that they've had before. They've had an Italian. They've had several English managers. I mean, it was slightly less boring than Gareth Southgate, I suppose. But it turns out that he lost the plot about sort of half an hour from the end and decided, let's stop playing football and just stand around and wait for them to score a goal.
Loads of space, guys.
Let's see how that goes. Meanwhile, on the football front, Andy Burnham has decided to give another interview, right? Having done one with Andrew Marr, the stroke victim, he's now decided to do an interview with Gary Lineker.
What?
Gary Lineker.
Why?
I don't know why. I'm going to play you some clips of it later. There's a meltdown coming from me, I'm telling you that, because it's absolutely outrageous. Meanwhile, Keir Starmer, I don't know whether you can do this as a mimic of Keir Starmer, which you do very well. He stood up in his last Prime Minister's questions and made this ridiculous kind of cri de coeur type statement about this is the end of my political journey.
I've left the country in a better place than I found it.
Right.
Goodbye.
Which of course he hasn't. You know, and then he goes. Apparently, old Vic and the kids were in the gallery. I don't know why they weren't at school. But anyway, they were in the gallery, and he declared that he loved them.
I love you.
I love you.
I love you.
He said one of the three worst words you ever want to hear from Keir Starmer. I love you. As he's looming over you. Can you imagine? I mean, what a nightmare. What an absolute nightmare.
I mean, God, where are we going to start this morning? Where are we going to start?
I don't know.
Where do you want to start?
Let's start with England, shall we?
Let's start with the footy. Right.
Where did you watch it?
I watched it in Westminster with some friends of mine. We booked a table out in this pub I usually go to, the Marquis of Granby. We had a great time.
Yeah, it's a good pub.
I spent most of my time and indeed income there, which is good fun. And was having a really good time. My instincts before we started was obviously I was very nervous. I did not expect to win, but I said that outwardly. But deep down, I was like, still believing.
But you think, because on the face of it, it looked possible. Because Argentina hadn't looked particularly great in previous games, had they?
No, they hadn't. And also, one thing I thought we might know is because we're playing Argentina very late into the tournament, we know how they operate, which is basically they're very dirty. Yeah. They go for the legs. They do fouls. I mean, I can't remember who.
There was a lot of fouls.
Tons of fouls. The first half was dirty as hell.
Yeah.
I mean, there was even one point where Messi had one of our boys in a bloody headlock. Yeah, but the ref didn't do anything.
But also the great thing about Messi is that he always sort of stands up as if he hasn't done anything wrong.
I've done nothing wrong.
And if anybody touches him, they all pile in. Don't
exactly. It's like he's walking around like
he's Lord God Almighty.
Yeah, he's God Almighty.
Yeah.
And one thing I did think though was okay. End of the first half, we've kept them more or less off our backs. We've had a few chances, and then of course we score in the second half. Beautiful goal,
brilliant goal.
But then we decide, should we just stop playing football now?
Yeah.
Let's just play defence.
I know.
It's like, no. Why are you playing defence against a hardcore attack team when you know for a fact that these guys do well in extra time?
Yeah.
Like, why on earth are you getting up now? And then we conceded two very good goals, granted, but I was beyond disappointed and beyond upset because I'll tell you this, Mike. I'm actually not that into football really, but I've loved this World Cup. I've loved every minute of it. I've watched a lot of the games. I've watched every England game. I've got really into it. And this is what heartbreak feels like. And for people who've been following football a lot longer than I have, I get it now. It's really freaking upsetting. How many times has our heart going to break in the semi-finals and the finals?
I've got a great clip to show. This is actually from Talk Sport, my former employer. So some people might be surprised I'm going to use it, but actually it's so good that I want you to see it. It's Jamie O'Hara and Jason Cundy watching the game together. And this is Jamie O'Hara, absolutely like you, but only even more losing the plot.
Sack him! Sack him! Sack him! Sack him now! Embarrassing! Oh, here we go. I told you, mate. I've told you it's coming. I told you, Jace, it's been coming for 15 minutes, mate. I told you it's been coming for 15 minutes. You can't play like this. You cannot play like this against Argentina. They will not quit. They will not quit. It's a terrible, terrible decision for Thomas Tuchel. It's a terrible decision for Thomas Tuchel. We retreated way too early. Way too early. We could have had Rashford. We could have had Saka. We had so much more to give in this game. And we just retreated. It's a terrible decision. This is what he's brought in for. To get this decision right. Oh my God. We're out. We're out. We're out. It's the worst decision ever. It's a sackable offence. Argentina have won it in the 92nd minute. It's a shocking, shocking decision. Thomas Tuchel, you should be embarrassed. Sack him. Sack him. Sack him. Sack him now. Embarrassing. We're out. How can he make that decision? How can you make that decision with 25 minutes to go? He's all over the place. He's absolutely bottled it. And we're out of the World Cup because of Thomas Tuchel.
Yep, I'm afraid so. The good news is, though, of course, no more football, please, says Farmer Guy. Okay, no more football. Let's talk about...
There isn't going to be any more football,
there isn't any more. It's all over. It's finished. The final takes place on Sunday between Spain and Argentina.
Yeah.
If you don't want to watch it, don't bother.
Which I'm not watching.
The good news, though, is that at least Starmer won't be going to the final, as he was planning to do, right? And he was planning also to take Burnham with him.
He was indeed.
Right? In fact, yesterday, Metro page 1 said, don't jinx it here.
Yeah.
So if they had got through, people didn't want him to go.
Yeah.
Because every time he turns up, he's like
lose.
Jonah. Like, no.
Although I fancied our chances against Spain, probably more than Argentina. And one thing also about this entire World Cup is that I feel like in some games, for some reason, we haven't been very attack heavy. Even though the first game we played against Croatia was a beautiful game, it was great fun to watch, and we were really forward and moving up all the time. Because my problem with football often is why are people just standing around?
England are normally quite boring, but they've actually been quite entertaining.
Exactly, we have been entertaining, and that is because of Tuchel. But his decision to just stop playing halfway through, and then bringing on attacking team members and sub them in the last few minutes. It's like, what are you doing? Why are you bringing Rashford on late into the game?
Here's one for you, for conspiracy-minded people. This will cheer you up. Do you think he was brought in deliberately by the Germans?
By the Germans,
just to take them to the brink and then just make it all go horribly wrong.
Well,
in the back.
Well, a lot of Germans went to Argentina, of course, back in the olden days. So maybe I think it's an Argentine plot.
Mengele,
but then
apparently Kelvin McKenzie managed to mention Joseph Mengele in this show yesterday on UK Live.
Did you see after the match there was a bit of a spat between Bellingham and one of the players?
Yeah,
because apparently Bellingham
there was quite a lot of fisticuffs.
Even after the game, apparently one of the players said something horrible in Spanish, but apparently Bellingham speaks Spanish or understands it, and then went after him, actually, which I thought was interesting.
Well, there's a bit on the front of the Mail here today which says, the night our dream finally died. Then it says, Harry Kane's lies out of the World Cup. Then Argentina stars wave the Falklands banner on the pitch, because that was all ratcheting up yesterday as well, wasn't it? Because the foreign minister, I think, of Argentina had said that the people that live on the Falkland Islands are just kind of, usurpers of the land, and they should be kicked off. So,
which is the one, actually, when you're looking about it geopolitically, it's one thing we have.
Las Malvinas, there we go.
Almost universal backing for. But let's take, on a positive level, let's take it like this. That's all Argentina have. All they have is football. They don't have anything else, really.
Well, they've got some nice wines.
They've got some.
And they've got a proper decent.
We're going to give. I forgot about Malay.
Also, they've got some great steaks as well.
All right, mate. You've converted. You've converted, mate.
Argentinian women. I mean, come on.
You've converted.
I think. If somebody said to me, "How would you like to transfer this entire show and your life to Buenos Aires?" I'd be like, I'm going. I'm ready. Pooch will come. I think you'd have a great time there.
Would I? I'd probably burn up quite quickly.
You might do, you might do. But listen, anyway, it's all over. So no more football, except for the fact that now footballers are apparently the new political gurus of the world, right? Andy Burnham has decided to give a second interview,
Andy.
right? Our Andy from North has decided to give an interview, but he's not going to give it to anybody intelligent. He's not going to give it to anybody that might ask him a difficult question. He's going to give it to Gary Bleeding Lineker. Right?
Why?
Gary
After avoiding
Lineker.
journalists.
Yeah. Now, Gary Lineker, I'm sorry to tell you, has no idea about politics, right? You might think he does because he's a multi-millionaire and he's made an awful lot of money from doing podcasting, right? But have a look at this. This is him. This is the second one, if we can, the one about Gaza. Have you got the Gaza one? Yeah. Have a look at this.
Oh, God.
Foreign policy is also important to a lot of people, and I've heard you talk about it yourself. And I think one of the reasons that the previous incumbent in Downing Street struggled was the way he dealt with the ongoing genocide, I think, in Gaza and what's happening in Lebanon as well. What's your thoughts on how you're going to cope with that and how you're going to deal with that situation?
Well, I did address Gaza directly last week, and I recognised that Labour got it wrong. I mean, obviously, the attacks of October the 7th were horrendous, but at the same time, I looked then at what happened in the aftermath and has carried on happening. And it's possible to criticise both things rather than just pick a side. So I said, in my view, it was wrong for the suggestion to be made that essential supplies could be closed off. It was an impression given, and but sometimes in politics, when those impressions land with people, they can cause real hurt. And I took the moment to say that was something that I should acknowledge was wrong and apologise for, which I did. And I think, as you said in your question, I have real concerns about, the destruction of Gaza and, the disproportionate nature of that. So, from my point of view, I, will always try and call it as I see it in the fairest way that I possibly can. I won't shy away from saying those things. I did call for a ceasefire very, very early on. And I think, again, Labour was late to do that. It's a fast-moving world now. And what I've kind of found increasingly in my political career is, people have to take clear positions quickly. And that's the way the world is right now. And I will do my best.
Shut up. Just shut up, Burnham. It's like, it's already white noise.
Yeah, it is. He's not saying anything.
I've already said, And by the way, when somebody says to you, when they're interviewing you, that there's a genocide going on in Gaza, here's what you're supposed to say when you're the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Actually, the International Criminal Court has said there is not a genocide going on. There isn't, just because you and your trendy mates from Barnes in West London think there's a genocide and think that everybody who is against the Palestinian Free State should be somehow shot dead and put up against a wall. It doesn't mean you're supposed to agree with them.
Yeah,
you're supposed to actually go, sorry, Gary, you're wrong there. I know that you're a newcomer to the world of politics, and I know that you don't really understand anything other than a 4-4-2 formation, you complete blank. However, here is the situation in reality, and this is how you should deal with it.
Yeah.
That's what he should have said.
But also, I actually just tuned out halfway through because Burnham wasn't saying anything.
He's beige. He's beige Burnham, which we're going to call him.
How long is he going to get away with this, though?
Well,
how long is he just going to walk on vibes?
As long as he continues to only give interviews to Gary Lineker and Angie Bloody Marr.
Yeah.
Because he's going to be made supposedly crowned Prime Minister on Friday, right? Luckily, no longer is he going to go to Miami, or maybe he'll go to Miami for the third place playoff. I don't know. But he then will become officially the Prime Minister on Monday, but he will not stand up in Parliament and be questioned by any of the MPs, but even though they've asked for him to do so. And then he'll go off into sort of riding off into the sunset in the summer, having appointed a couple of people in his cabinet, and he won't be under any scrutiny at all.
No, he's got a free ride. He's got a free ride. No incoming Prime Minister has had it this easy in ages. And the problem is that because Burnham, for some reason, I know why he doesn't want media scrutiny, because he's got nothing to say. And also, we might actually have a look at his bloody record in Manchester.
But also, suddenly when you see him talking, right, you realise he's a very, very insubstantial individual.
Yeah,
he's got nothing important to say. He's got no real credibility. All right, what's the point of it?
And I think this, King of the North thing, that's been concocted, firstly, obviously, by him as well. But
Not
also,
the North, we call it.
But then also people in the media as well who've sort of had this weird vibe around Andy from the lockdown days, and he's a superstar, and isn't he great? And actually, there's nothing super or star-like about him. And every video when he was in Makerfield with this putting elbow music and bloody Stone Roses all over his stuff.
I've got a song from the Smiths I'm going to tell you about.
Even though, by the way, he's not even Mancunian, he's a bloody Scouser.
He's a Scouser.
He's a Scouser. Right. Also supports Everton, so that means means he's from the posh part of Liverpool.
What do they call them? Woolly backs,
yeah. Because that's near the Wirral, right? So he's from the posh part. I mean, he was going around when he did his video and making.
He did English literature at Oxford.
I know.
He's hardly flat cap Andy, is he?
And also he's never had a job outside of politics.
No.
So like, why is this guy being seen as the saviour of the Labour Party? And there's two reasons. There's one, because he's a little bit more charismatic than Keir Starmer. Oh, that's a very low bar.
That's an incredibly low bar.
And then second,
this banana's got more charisma than bloody Keir Starmer. You know what I mean?
Banana in the north.
Yeah.
And then the second point is because he just. For some reason, there's this feeling about like, oh, well, he's from up to north and he connects with Tavota and all that, up in every art and good growth and every postcode. I'm getting better actually. It's not too bad.
That's not bad.
So why on earth? That's the two reasons, and the Labour Party think. Oh, we can save ourselves here, guys.
Yeah.
Our career, it's saved.
Yeah.
Our Andy comes down from the north and saves us all.
It's unbelievable.
Bollocks. Not going to happen, mate.
No.
People are going to see through him. Very, very, very fucking quickly. And good, because this guy doesn't have any substance to him. And actually, when he does actually start to real policies, you're going to find out, you're going to start missing Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves.
Yeah.
You're going to start missing them because he's going to yes, I know, new property taxes, wealth tax. Oh, I know, let's give the entirety of the Boris wave indefinite leave to remain.
Yeah.
Oh, sod it, let's just import 3 million more of them.
Yeah, right.
You know, and also now let's create huge bureaucracies around the entire country to devolve power back into your arts.
Yeah.
It is nauseating.
Number 10 to north.
Number 10 to north. And by the way, I want 10 million quid for it, mate.
Yeah.
You know,
Give the four Yorkshiremen sketch at this point, you know. Well, we're happy that we're poor. You know. I'll tell you what, though, you won't miss this. Have a look at this. This is Keir Starmer, right, addressing his troops yesterday in his final Prime Minister's questions. Check it out.
Speaker, this will be my last answer from this dispatch box. Every Prime Minister knows when they take up the torch that the day will come when they have to pass it on. That day has come for me. This is the end of my political journey. In 6 years, went from historic defeat in 2019 to historic victory in 2024. And in 2 years in government, I leave the country in better shape than I found it. Yeah. I am proud of everything that we have achieved. Mr. Speaker, can I just take time to say to you, Mr. Speaker, and all those who work for the House and in our constituency offices.
I can't sack people to death anymore.
To my political team, many of them.
Yeah, wait for it. This is the best bit coming up.
Who came on this journey with me. Thank you so much for everything you have done and being prepared to walk through fire. To my colleagues on these benches,
it's coming.
I'm proud of all we have achieved together and proud of each and every one of you. To my successor and each of you, I will give my full support. To all colleagues across the House. Can I wish you good health and happiness? To all those in the gallery whose lives have been changed or improved
who I'm paid to appear there,
and all across the country.
Come on, let's do the big
struggle
one.
To be seen or heard. You're the reason I came into politics. To my wife and children, I love you. Goodbye.
Goodbye. I love you.
Piss off. Get lost.
Least deserving Prime Minister.
Get out.
Yeah. But also, it's funny because he just walks off. He doesn't like stand around to like get a little wave. He's like, bye.
Somebody said, check out the old the Masonic handshake that's going on there, right? Because did you see when it started? When it started, right? Lindsay Hoyle. First of all, who's meant to be a neutral Speaker of the House, right? Who's supposed to be on the side of democracy as opposed to the side of any MP. He starts thanking him, right? Not least for his fantastic and steadfast support for Ukraine. What? What's that got to do with the Speaker of the House?
It's like, Kemi did.
I love you.
I love you.
I love you.
I love you. Yeah,
Goodbye now, F off. Very
clear.
good. Well said.
I'm going
Absolutely
to be
right.
General Secretary of NATO, and I'm going to write very strongly worded letters to people about how bad they are. That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah. I love you.
I love you.
Yeah.
Nobody likes me. me. Yeah. It's like who's the character from Rainbow?
Oh, Zippy. Yeah.
It's like Zippy.
He is like
he sounds
Zippy,
like Zippy.
He does.
Nobody likes me.
Zippy's more
I've
intelligent.
got no friends.
Zippy's actually more intelligent than Starmer. He's the thickest lawyer I've ever met.
Yeah.
He's really, literally the thickest bloke in the world.
Yeah, couldn't lure your way out of this one, could you, Keir?
Yeah.
Bye-bye, Keir. No one cares. We're not going to miss you. I'm certainly not. But you wait until, after like a few months of Burnham being in power, and you're going to get some like sensiblest, high-status toss pots in like the Times and stuff going, oh, well, I miss Keir Starmer's, very steady hand in his middle of the road.
They're already doing it. They're already doing it this morning, right? There's word that he's going to make Shabana Mahmood the Chancellor, right? They're already saying, oh, she's done such a great job in the Home Office. What? How has she done a great job? Have you seen the streets of London?
What?
Have you seen the state of the people arriving from Dover? Have you seen, the 3 rapists who've just been sent to prison for 70 years for raping a woman, mass raping a woman on the beach in Brighton? That's how great a job she's been doing. People are in fear of their lives living in this country thanks to all the bloody migrants who've come in.
Politics is just vibes at this point, isn't it? Like journalists will feel a vibe and they'll write about it, and that will be become the truth.
Yeah, and they're all called things like Albury. And sort of, they're
all posh.
They're all posh. They're all ridiculously posh.
But also, as I've said to you before, Mike, and my views on this, a lot of political reporting, apart from the people who do they do energy stories or they do economics desk stuff and things like that. Yeah. Most of the political journalists are just gossip columnists. Yeah. They're just he said, she said on the bloody seashore.
And they're all playing the same little game. They're all going out with each other. It's let's meet up down at the Red Lion.
The minister's messaged me on my phone.
If you get me into the Labour Party conference inner circle, you can get into my knickers. That's what they're like. That's what it's like. That's exactly what it's like. You know that.
Yeah. And also it actually annoys me because sometimes when I have good stories or good data and good news,
they're not interested in any of that.
They're just what? So they don't understand basic data sheets or actually, by the way, this is the reason this is happening in there's a big thing going on in local government, guys, and they're just what's this going to do with SW1?
Yeah, right.
It's what's it going to do? It's to do with actual people's lives and their council tax and their bin
all
collections.
All they care about is can you get to the front row of the press conference so that you can ask a question,
the softball question,
and so that maybe after Robert Peston, I'll get a go. Who gives a toss about these people? Yeah, and this is why. And we're going to talk about this at CPAC later on today, actually, the state of the media and the reason why we are in such trouble here politically in this country is because the media have lost the plot. They've switched off. They're not watching where the ball's going. They're sort of Thomas Tuchel of Westminster.
They've stopped playing attack.
Yeah, they've stopped playing attack. They've just sat back and gone, we'll just listen to, what's the latest press release from Downing Street? And that's what Burnham's going to give them. Burnham's just going to go, from Tit North, I'm not going to be able to talk to you because I'm going to get on another train, the Aviva line. I'm going to go north because that's where number 10 North is. Every Thursday. I know. It's just ridiculous.
It's charming, man. So that's what is he going to do? Open every
start singing Wonderwall halfway down to Euston. Unbelievable. It really is.
The world away. That's going to open every press conference with that. But then these journalists are going to regret not holding Burnham to account. Yeah. Actually, they're going to bloody well regret it when he starts. Oh, I know. Let's go. I think more censorship laws actually, because it's in our kids.
They don't talk about that.
Yeah, they won't do that at all. Yeah. To be fair, I know a front page of the Times it has got a Burnham story on it. Telegraph has been pretty solid on it as well, but. There are some people at the moment and it's not entirely journalists' fault because Burnham's just not talking to anyone.
Well, they don't understand the new. It's not like they don't understand the new media landscape. They don't get YouTube at all. Every time they try and do a show on YouTube from any of these sort of media legacy companies, they don't know how to do it. They should be able to get massive numbers, but they can't. Yeah. They don't know how it works. And not one of them has actually asked a question about this new idea that there's now a voluntary a curfew that the government's going to put in place where your child is supposed supposed to switch off his phone.
Yeah, I know, right?
At 12 o'clock midnight, right?
Yeah.
How's that going to work?
Exactly. No one has any idea.
It's not going to work.
But also the problem is, especially with that kind of stuff, you've got people on the other side of the fence on the right backing that kind of stuff as well. It's just like, oh, I thought we were in favour of like freedom and parental responsibility, guys.
Yeah.
What's going on with all this? Like, oh, well, the state needs to get involved in like and become the parents.
Yes.
Like for them, it's like free school meals are a step too far, but banning your kid off social media, that's fine.
That's
it's like,
all right.
actually, no, I'm against both actually because the state isn't the parent. You are. You should take some bloody responsibility.
Exactly.
Like, I remember there was this video put out by the DWP during the free school meals thing, and it was like asking like these mothers or whatever it was, going, oh, what would you do with an extra 30 minutes? And every single one of them was like, oh, I'd sleep in, or I go to the coffee shop, and then one woman was like, oh, sometimes I forget to feed my kids. I'm like, that's neglect.
Yes,
that's literally neglect.
And is
why the hell do you have children?
Yeah.
Like these people, unironically, went on camera and were like, yeah, I know. I'm going to say this to camera that I don't feed my kids, and the government should steal more money from taxpayers, from people like me and you, in order to
make sure that they get fed.
Yeah, exactly. Brilliant.
I know. It makes absolutely no sense at all. How about this, right? This is Zia Yusuf talking about Anne Widdecombe. This is a good one because he quite rightly points out that some of the things that have been said about Anne Widdecombe in the past have obviously been have had a massive effect on nutters who think that something like Anne Widdecombe's views should be absolutely abhorrent. Have a look at this.
And it's incredibly difficult to repeat these words that have been said of our late friend, our late treasure, Anne. But we cannot ever allow this to happen again. And so I must. David Lammy, now the Deputy Prime Minister, described Anne as a, quote, poisonous bigot who wants to, quote, drag us back to the 19th century and, quote, throw minorities out in the cold on the way. He boldly declared, quote, we must stand up to them before it's too late. Before it's too late. Wes Streeting, until recently the Health Secretary, said, quote, if only science had a cure for Anne Widdecombe. A woman on Twitter said, quote, Anne Widdecombe better go this week. She is a little fascist beast. This woman happens to have been, until just a few months ago, the Minister for Safeguarding and Violence Against Women and Girls, Jess Phillips. Ed Davey, the leader of the Liberal Democrats, made the inflammatory declaration that, quote, the greatest threat to the Britain we love doesn't come from Tehran or Moscow. It comes from within. I'm talking about Nigel Farage and reform. Vladimir Putin has murdered people with poison on British soil. The Iranian regime has attempted multiple terrorist attacks on British soil. Is it any wonder, with such rhetoric relentlessly levelled at reform, that some may be moved to try to eliminate that supposed threat through lethal violence? Lisa Nandy, Labour's Culture Secretary, was asked whether Reform were fascists. She responded, quote, if it walks like a duck.
Yeah. He's quite right to point these things out. The rhetoric around reform, the rhetoric from many senior members of the Labour government about reform has been a disgrace.
Yeah, it is.
And now they're sitting around going, oh, isn't it surprising that somebody wants to do people from reform harm? Really? They arrested a guy yesterday on the Nigel Farage, who had threatened to shoot Nigel Farage, some kind of Lib Dem apparently, the Be Kind left, a British Asian man, he was described as, who was arrested and then set free. Yeah. Right? Nice. Lucy Connolly didn't get set free. No. Lucy Connolly was held, because she was such a danger to society. Because she writes those terrible tweets, which she deletes. You better keep her in prison. But you let this guy out who wants to shoot the leader of reform.
Yeah, and you wonder why.
What's that all about?
And you wonder why people feel like we live in a two-tier society.
Yeah.
Right? And the Reform UK point is interesting, but actually it all starts off with things like Labour MPs wearing Never Kiss a Tory t-shirts.
Yeah.
It starts off with the Tory scum stuff, like in Glastonbury and things like that.
Cull the Tories, those t-shirts.
Cull the Tories. Yeah. It starts off, I mean, some Labour MPs in the past used to be pretty nasty about it. Or remember John McDonnell, that audio recording of him was like stringing up Esther McVeigh, I think it was.
Yeah.
These people, like whether, and let's get real about this for a second. One thing that I think many on the right get wrong, and they sort of imbibed this from the late great Roger Scruton, which is, we don't dislike our political enemies, our political opponents. We just disagree with them while they hate us.
Yeah.
They do hate us, and actually, to some extent, you need to protect yourself against that in many ways, and you can't, because you're not playing on the same sort of playing field, if you will, right? It's like all you're doing is playing defence while the other team's playing attack all the time. The right needs to play attack more, and one thing Reform has been very good at is playing more attack. But because they've decided to play attack, obviously now they're getting all this pushback, and to the extent
and they're getting taken apart by the sort of established media and the established political parties, both from the Tory side and from the Labour side. Because Kemi Badenoch, I thought yesterday was a disgrace as well.
I thought it was
for all of Kemi's really good now, and she's much better, isn't she? She stands up and starts congratulating Keir Starmer
on what?
And saying, his wife was very nice to me. All it does is feed into this nonsensical world where they're all mates with each other, and they all go to the same parties, and they all hang out, and they all go to the tea room, and it's all a bit of a game. And I was actually, frankly, really, really disappointed and annoyed and actually quite wound up yesterday when they were all laughing and joking. In the week, less than a week since Anne Widdecombe had been assassinated by a very, very dangerous individual who had been egged on by the left. And they're all sitting there having a laugh and a shout, and isn't it funny, and hasn't Keir done a great job, and let's give him a round of applause for completely screwing the country up.
Exactly.
Right?
Like clapping him for what? What about all those farmers who killed themselves? What about the small businesses that have had to close? What about the pubs that have lasted for hundreds and hundreds of years that have had to shut down?
3 businesses a day now closing.
What about all those young professionals who are about to move out of London and move back home because they can't afford to pay the rent anymore because they're getting squeezed by frozen tax thresholds?
And what about Rachel Reeves?
All the things that Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer have done? And what about all those parents with kids who needed to send their kids to a private school to get them to get them better education, but now can't do so anymore because they've been priced out of it because of the VAT.
Because of the VAT,
right. Like I can go on, Mike. I can go on for a long time, and I can. So when I see in Parliament, Ed Davey and Kemi and the SNP and Labour all standing up and having a nice little giggle, having a little jiggle, I want to scream at them. And actually, do you know what? Actually, I don't care that you're leaving Keir Starmer. I'm going to give you one last kick before you go out the bloody door.
Absolutely.
Because it's what you deserve. Actually, it's less than what you deserve. You deserve a lot more than that, mate. And I also don't buy the whole let's all focus on talking about Ukraine. I don't give a shit about Ukraine. I don't give a shit about it. Sorry, I don't give a shit. What I care about at the moment is the fact that this Labour Party is running the country into the solid ground.
Into the ground.
And not all of that is international reputation.
I know.
International reputation.
Well, he got the Legion d'Honneur, right? He goes over to France, right? For what? Do you know what he got it for? He got it for protecting the security of Europe. Well, how about protecting the bloody security of Britain?
Or the Chagos Islands, for example.
And also, guess who gave out the Legion d'Honneur in the original format it was in? Napoleon. So now he's getting awards from Napoleon, the enemy of the state of Britain, right?
Thank you, Napoleon.
Come on,
Talleyrand. Do you recognise me,
I love you.
I love you.
I love you, Emmanuel Macron. Je t'aime. I had this vision the other day of them both dancing together. Je t'aime. Meanwhile, how about this, right? Asylum seekers who gang raped a woman on Brighton Beach, jailed for predatory attack, right? These are all people who came here on small boats. An Egyptian called Karin al-Danasut, 21, and Ibrahim al-Shaf, 25, and an Iranian called Abdullah Ahmadi. They became mates on a boat on their way to Britain across the channel, and they decided, let's have a great night out together and gang rape a woman on the beach at Brighton.
Let's go for a rape, shall we?
They've now been sentenced. They filmed it. It was the most brutal attack, it was said. They've been now put in prison for 70 years. There's hundreds of these bozos here. Thousands of them
Hang 'em.
coming, thanks to Starmer, thanks to old Shabana Mahmood, who's meant to have
fantastic
done,
Home Secretary,
according to
guys.
the Times, great job she's done at the Home Office. Yeah, great job importing rapists.
Yeah,
well
nice
done,
one.
Shabana.
Nice one, guys.
You know, what are you going to do? I mean, as somebody pointed out, you know, are you sure you want to put a Muslim in charge of the Treasury? You know, because they don't believe in interest, do they?
Well, speaking of, I've got some more breaking economic news for you.
Come on.
The UK economy has grown by 0.1% in May, guys.
Yay!
0.1%.
Brilliant.
0.1%.
Congratulations.
We've done it, guys.
Yeah.
We've done it again.
I
Brilliant.
love
We're back.
you. I love you.
I love you.
I love you.
Meat. Yeah, look at that. Also, when in the House of Commons, he did this.
God.
I went to my school and I did a 6-7. I'm really down with the kids. Like, just go back to your little law firm.
I love you.
And don't talk to me ever again.
Yeah.
Like, go away.
If he's on fire like this.
What about this, right? David Patrikarakos, can't even say it. Patrikarakos, who's in Iraqi Kurdistan, has gone and done a big piece for the Daily Mail, right? The disturbing words of a people smuggler who runs a travel agency for illegal migrants in Iraqi Kurdistan, right? Here's what he says. Go to the UK, they don't deport anyone, right? This is the advert now. Head to the UK because you'll be fine there. They'll never kick you out.
No, they never will. They never will.
In fact, if you're any good at football, we might make you the manager of the England football team.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
You know.
At least the people on the boats know how to attack.
Unbelievable.
That was a bit dark.
Yeah.
That was a bit dark.
Look at this from John. I love you.
I love you.
Yeah, bye then. Bye. You put
phone
the phone. No, you put the phone down. That's what it's like. That's what it's like. It's like some hopeless teenage romance that he's got with himself, and he thinks he's got it with the rest of the country.
Imagine him standing in front of the mirror every time he goes, "You've got this, Keir. You've got this. You're fantastic. You're great."
Can you imagine him asking anybody out?
Yeah.
Would you like to go on a date? Let me be clear. Let me be clear. I would like to preserve my international reputation by asking you, a very lovely lady, out for a drink.
Oh man, unbelievable. Yeah. Have you got any dates on the horizon?
Yeah, indeed. One this evening.
This evening?
On
Oh,
this
really?
evening. Yes, I'm on this evening.
Who's the lucky bloke?
Well, you're jealous, Mike.
I haven't got time for dates. I'm all over I've got CPAC for about the next 48
and I will
hours.
see you there, mate.
We will be there, yeah.
I'll
I've got
TPA.
a panel going on today, which is around about 1:45, I think it starts, with Jack Posobiec, who's going to be coming into the show today, by the way, which I'm looking forward to seeing him. Dan Wootton's on it as well, and a woman from Australia, an Australian senator, whose name escapes me for the moment, but we'll be talking about press coverage and the new media and all that. And then tomorrow I've got a lunch and then the dinner. In the evening.
Yeah, I've got the dinner as well.
You going to the dinner?
Are you wearing black tie then?
I will, yeah.
Yeah, I wear black tie.
But you know what? What I do with black ties is I wear the dinner suit and I wear a sort of wing collar, but no tie.
Okay, interesting.
So no bow tie.
So it's funny because wing collars are not actually correct for black tie.
Hey?
They're not correct for black tie. They're a hangover from white tie. White tie.
Really?
White tie is wing collar.
Right.
Black tie isn't. Black tie is supposed to
Yeah,
have
but
a
I sort of
down
mix
collar.
it up, you see, so I'm going to have no tie at all.
Because like Mike Graham,
Yeah, because I can, if you don't like it, you can shove it up your ass. And then some studs, black studs.
Yeah, black studs.
So I think that'll be good.
I think
what I need to try and find though, because I don't know where I've put them, is I've got a pair of black patent leather shoes.
Ooh, very nice.
Which I used to wear as well, but I don't know where they are.
Do you wear a cummerbund or a waistcoat or something like that?
Only if I've had some injury of some kind. Not since the hernia operation.
But yeah, no, I'm seeing a lady tonight.
I did have to get some braces actually.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, because
that works.
The reason being that I've got this dinner suit which I used to have when I was a lot fatter, and when the last time I put it on, my trousers fell down. so I've got the braces. I was walking to I was with Will Geddes actually. It was his birthday party at this very nice restaurant, Italian restaurant in Mayfair. And as I was walking to the bathroom, my trousers fell down, and I thought, well, that's not good, is it? Oops. Yeah, we don't want that. So it's going to be a good couple of days, very busy couple of days.
But TPAs and CPAC. So
but these people that you go out on dates, where do you meet them? Do you meet them online?
So this one was my friend's girlfriend's friend.
Okay.
Which is good.
That's always a good one.
Which is always a good thing. And I saw her I met her a few months ago at some events in Westminster, and then learned that she went to the same university as me, which was obviously a good thing to connect over. And then we just got chatting and stuff, and then things happened, and then moving on, and then she was like, nothing.
I love you.
I love you.
I love you.
Let me be clear. Let me be very clear. Would you like to go on a date with me? Please meet me. And then she called me one evening actually, and she was just like, "When are you going to ask me out on a date?" Then
That's all right.
And I was just like, "Yeah,
okay then.
So that
yeah,
one. So
that's good."
So I asked her out the other day, and she said yes immediately without even blinking. Which is good, because of course, why wouldn't she?
Why wouldn't she? Exactly.
Because I'm a legend. I'm a great chap. He's a great guy.
Brilliant.
It seems like women want to talk to me at the moment, which is a nice change of pace, which is nice. I haven't really done anything. I've not lost weight or become less of a twat, but so I just don't give a shit anymore, do I?
No.
I just don't care anymore.
Well, listen, the world's going to hell in a handcart. You might as well enjoy yourself.
Yeah, I'm campaign director now. Because I'm damn well, please,
Yeah, exactly. Well, for the next campaign.
My next campaign. Want to get that? Well, that is wild. I'm wild. I'm wild.
Do you go halves on a date or not?
No, I pay.
Quite right too. Quite right too.
I absolutely pay. Halves when you're in a relationship, that makes more sense. Or you pay for one or you pay for another. Because one of my girlfriends at university, she preferred to go halves on everything, which was fine. I didn't mind that, but I'm more sort of also because women are very I'm not sure. I remember someone explaining this to me of it's because of the rise of dad daughters or whatever it is, where they all get treated like princesses and stuff, and they want princess treatment. But I don't mind that. Women,
it's
women
Instagram generation.
Totally. They see all these things. A man should pay and things like that. And look, actually, I to some extent agree with that.
Well, I was talking to somebody, a friend of mine who's in Dubai, who was saying that if you go out with a Russian woman. You'll send a card for me.
You'll send
a card. I'm not coming. And then when she turns up, you have Chanel bag for me, and you have to buy them a Chanel bag. Otherwise,
that's what Keir Starmer got wrong.
I love you.
He thought he was going on a date with a Russian model, but he actually was on a Ukrainian rent boy. Let me be clear, this is not what I ordered.
No. But he did buy him a Chanel bag, though.
Yeah, that's all right then. A Chanel bag from Lord Ali. Who remembers Lord Ali? What was that all about? Who remembers?
Well, I assume that Burnham's now being dressed by Lord Ali, because when he did that official photograph, he now looks like he's being dressed by Lord Ali, because he's lost, or maybe undressed first, but he's lost the black t-shirt. He's got a proper, and he's now got a suit that actually fits him.
Yeah, I know.
And I think he's even got new glasses, courtesy of Lord Ali.
Did you see his picture being taken in Parliament? He's got one, hand in his pocket. I'm our Andy.
I'm from Tut North.
I'm our Andy from Tut North. I'm such a cool cat. Maybe. So maybe you should do one.
Yeah, maybe you should get back on the train.
Yeah.
Anyway, listen, it's been a pleasure.
Always good to see you, mate. I'll see you later, mate.
I'll see you later on this afternoon. I don't know what the plan is actually, because after the panel, I suppose there'll be drinks taken.
We'll just go find a bar, mate.
We'll just find a bar somewhere. Yeah, we're in search of a banner. If you happen to see a banner on your way down there, which has got the Mike Graham show, so we've lost it. I don't know where it is.
For you, I'll draw it.
Yeah. Somebody sent it to the wrong place. Who knows? Maybe they sent it to Talk. Anyway, this is the Mike Graham Show. William Yarwood, thank you very much indeed. We'll see you later. It's 7:43 already. I love you. Shall we get some news from Edward Hughes?
Edward Hughes here with your Thursday bulletin. Keir Starmer marked the end of an era with an emotional final Prime Minister's questions yesterday, telling MPs, "This is the end of my political journey," before receiving a standing ovation. He paid tribute to his family and colleagues and pledged full support to his successor as Labour navigates its leadership transition, with Knob of the North, Andy Burnham, widely tipped for a bigger role. The murder of former MP Anne Widdecombe remains front and centre. Counter-terrorism police are investigating it as a targeted attack, and senior reform UK figures are now receiving round-the-clock protection amid heightened threats to politicians. On the pitch, devastating scenes for England as Argentina fought back to win 2-1 in the World Cup semi-final, ending the Three Lions run despite strong showings from Jude Bellingham. International tensions continue with further developments in the US strikes on Iran. Please remember to like and subscribe. Laters, Tigers.
Nice hat, by the way, William. Not William. No, that's not William. That's Edward. I love you. I've been confused now because I had so much fun talking to William Yarwood there. That was great. Extraordinary stuff. Shall we do a quick Ian Dale? Because Ian Dale, who was on the show the other day, actually is a man after my own heart. Have a look at what he says after this ridiculous Starmer cri de coeur.
To my wife and children, I love you. Goodbye.
how sick-making was that? That the very people that have got rid of him had the cheek to stand up and clap him.
So I was...
That's it. I mean, it is sick-making because he, you know, as Ian Dale points out, these people all got rid of him. They all decided, they bandied together, they all decided he was no good, they all decided that he had to go, they all decided they had to find a new Prime Minister, a new leader of the party. They decided on Andy Burnham, which in my view will be a terrible mistake and will prove to be a terrible mistake. But what the hell is going on? Who does he think he is? Does he think he's in some kind of soap opera? I love you, goodbye. Yeah, goodbye, good riddance, and don't come back, and don't let the door hit you on the arse on the way out. I mean, the man is a disgrace, quite frankly, and that's why, if you're reading my Substack this morning, you'll see that I've written that down as well, because I just don't have any time for him. I don't have any sympathy for him. I don't have any good wishes for him. And all I would like to see is the end of his political career, as he's now called it. And so that he can't do any more harm to the good people of this country and to the economy of this country. Rachel Reeves, by the way, who said in an interview with Laura Kunsberg the weekend that the biggest mistake she made was crying while she was at work. Well, she did it again yesterday. She's got some kind of emotional incontinence. Can she not actually sit anywhere without bursting into tears every 5 minutes? It's not exactly a great advert for putting a woman in charge of the economy, is it? Well, every time something goes back a bit wrong, she bursts into tears. Unbelievable. Let's talk to Sunil Sharma, who's here with us this morning as the first guest after William Yarwood. Sunil, very good morning to you.
Morning, Mike.
Can I just say, I love you? Because that apparently is how you now have to conduct yourself in British politics. I mean, what does Keir Starmer think he's doing? I mean, I was embarrassed watching that yesterday because actually he hasn't left the country in a better state than it was when he found it. He hasn't done anything to improve the lot of the people of this country. Nobody wants him there. And he's going out as if he's sort of Frank Sinatra on a farewell tour.
It's bizarre. He's definitely the most divisive prime minister that I think we've seen in the last 50, 60 years. I think even on that point, I don't think people talk about that enough, about how divisive he actually was, how much he's divided this country.
Yeah.
Right from the get-go, you know, every leader, every person has some sort of honeymoon period, whether it's days, weeks, and months. He didn't. He decided to, right from the get-go, attack people who were frustrated or angry with what's going on in the country as far right following the Southport riots. I think he's just acted so poorly. He doesn't understand what the average Brit wants or thinks, so he has no idea. I think he's definitely he'll go down as one of the worst prime ministers that we've ever seen in this country, and good riddance, to be honest. I think it's embarrassing seeing all those people clapping and cheering. Right. As a clip show, they're the ones who voted him out. But what can he say actually without using flaky words? In actual serious terms, what has Keir Starmer done that's been remotely positive for this country?
This is the thing. You know when he runs through his usual kind of box ticking exercise of we've reduced the number of people waiting on the NHS waiting list. No, they haven't. They've just reduced the number of names by getting rid of them. We've improved the economy. No, you haven't. 3 businesses are closing down every single day. There's 280,000 people fewer working now than there were. I mean, every single thing that he mentions is not true, apart from anything else. And he hardly ever gets challenged on it by the journalists of this country. So I would challenge anyone to actually mention one thing that's got better in the 2 years they've been in.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, just yesterday before the England-Argentina game, I was watching so many clips of Margaret Thatcher in the 80s with regards to the Falklands and regards to the way she reacted, the way she spoke, the decisive action. And I was sitting here thinking, what would happen in 2026 under Keir Starmer if the same thing happened, if Argentina came in and illegally invaded the Falkland Islands? What would Keir Starmer do? And you can almost guarantee it would be absolutely nothing. He would have no capacity to respond. They wouldn't respect him. No one would listen to him, and you can almost guarantee that there'd be no action would be taken. And I think repeat behavior with him as leader has been so bad. It's been so bad for the country. It's been so bad for every single person. I can't wait to see the back of him, but at the same time, I'm extremely worried and fearful of what's coming next. And I think it's just a really disturbing time. I think that the sooner the general election, the better. But obviously, I don't see that happening anytime soon.
I mean, there's two schools of thought on that. I was talking to Liz Truss yesterday about it on her podcast, which is out, I think, now, because she asked me, and I said, well, I think that there is a chance that Andy Burnham is just conceited enough to think that he could win a general election because, all of his mates will be telling him that, rather than going all the way to 2029 and actually losing because everybody hates Labour, what you should do is capitalise on the fact that, maybe Reform are a little bit weaker than they were. The Conservatives are nowhere near ready to win anything. And maybe if you have a victory in the autumn, you could go for 5 years instead of 3.
Yeah, maybe I wouldn't. I think he's deluded enough to do something like that. So yeah, maybe I wouldn't rule that past him. I think it's just a really frustrating time for Britain when there is just a lack of leadership. There's a lack of seriousness to the country, to be honest, and you can see that even with his speech. There's just you mentioned about Rachel Reeves being the chancellor and her finding any opportunity to start crying. I mean, it's embarrassing when you look at it on the world stage. I think when people look outwardly into England, and they must be thinking out into Britain, like, what on earth is going on with this country? What on earth is going on with the profile of leaders that they are producing and the people that are coming in? I do want to mention yesterday the result and England Argentina, and again, what Argentina did after the game, holding that stupid flag. Again, and I think if we had a stronger leader in Britain, there would be straight away we'd be talking about their rebuttal, saying it was wrong what they did. It's unacceptable for them to put up a flag, politicize a football game, which we know is illegal to do, and that they should be fined or kicked out or whatever. But Keir Starmer's just not going to do that. He's not going to have the best interests of this country at heart. You saw what the Argentinian was it the vice prime minister said before the game, in terms of the Falkland Islands belongs to Argentina, almost inciting this kind of this kind of almost war on the pitch. And Keir Starmer did nothing. He just accepted it, and he'll accept the fact that the Argentinians after a game held a flag, which was again offensive to Britain, but he's not going to do anything about it because I don't think he cares.
Well, no, I think the problem for Starmer is that his default position is to do nothing. His default position is to set up an inquiry or organise a summit or, try and get hands across the water or, his most famous, I mean, he will probably tell you one of his most famous kind of achievements is setting up the coalition of the willing, which means absolutely nothing, right? He goes over to France every 5 minutes. He gets a pat on the back from Emmanuel Macron and a hug. And then he gets given the Legion d'Honneur, which I think is quite ironic because it's a Napoleonic prize given out to basically enemies of the UK, right? And he suddenly got one because he's an enemy of the UK. And the only reason that he's got it is because his work towards building security for Europe. But he hasn't built security for Britain because we're now still being invaded on a daily basis by illegal migrants.
Yeah, 100%. You look at the state of the UK when it comes to illegal migrants, and you look at the fact that he doesn't allow anyone to even discuss this. He demonizes people who talk about this. He labels us as far right if we say we're not happy with people coming into this country illegally, which again for the vast majority of the world they would agree with, and it just seems to be a Western problem. But even worse so, Keir Starmer seems to be taking us to another level when it comes to this. He hasn't controlled the borders remotely. It's becoming a laughing stock in terms of some of the policies he's tried to enact. Even the social media ban. You see, you just look at that, for example, the way he and his party have targeted X and the things that they've said about other platforms, and then you go on their favorite wet left platform, Blue Sky, and you see the way those people reacted to Anne Widdecombe's death, and you see the vile comments on there, and almost nothing is said about that from him. There's that two-tier policing that he's done. I mean, the list is just endless. He will go down as the worst modern-day prime minister. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But I think I want people to more recognize how divisive he was. I think that's the thing that I think sometimes he doesn't get enough attention on. He has seriously divided this country
Yeah.
with the way he has spoken. People always talk about Trump and they always talk about leaders like that in terms of their divisive. I would argue Keir Starmer has been far more divisive than somebody like President Trump has been. And I think it's only going to carry on with Andy Burnham, who seems to be wanting to add another layer of division by separating the North and South. And so I don't see this ending anytime soon. They claim to be this be kind crowd, but they're the people who are dividing this country more than anyone else.
Oh, they really are. And as we've seen in the wake of the ghastly events of last week when Anne Widdecombe was murdered, brutally murdered by somebody who's now currently under suspicion of being some kind of left-wing activist and left-wing kind of extremist, basically. They've created that. The Labour government have created this kind of, this very fertile ground for people to hate anyone from the right. They've created that. It's never been like that in this country. We haven't had this kind of, situation where people who actually are British individuals have actually taken up arms, if you like, against the right.
100%. Violence in the UK, in the West in general, it is all coming from the far left. It's not coming from the right. It's coming from the left. You look at the deaths, the threats that happen to anyone remotely on the right. It's astronomical and it's so scary. I think that the reality is what they've done is by labeling anyone, for example, who doesn't want to see illegal people coming into their country as far right. What they've done is they've put targets on people's backs by judging them and making these such strong statements. Because what some of these far left, yes, of course, some of these people aren't mentally well or whatever, but what he's done is he's given them justification to attack conservative / right-wing politicians. Because when you label them far right, when you label them as Nazis, when you use this kind of language, then for some of these sick individuals, they will go out there and think, you know what? People do deserve to die. These right-wing conservative people, reform, restore, whoever, they deserve to die because I'm actually doing something good for society. I'm getting rid of these far-right evil men and women. So I'm actually contributing in a positive way to society. He's normalizing that sort of behavior by using that language. So, he's very quick to talk about the language on social media. He's very quick to talk about the stuff that average Brits say. But if you look at his language and the language his party has used, it's been nothing short of disgraceful. On the right, this isn't an issue. People debate it out. We will argue about it. We'll have a normal conversation and we'll maybe agree to disagree. But on the left, that's not the case. The left in the UK right now, and I'd say pretty much the most of the West, are the most violent people. And I think a lot of the reason that's contributing to this violence is the way these political people are talking. They are labeling anyone that has any common sense view on certain things as far right or as a Nazi and all this sort of language. It's wrong. And if Keir Starmer actually cared about this country and Andy Burnham, he would call that out in a press conference straight away. He would have looked at that death. Well, he didn't need that death in the first place to know that this was happening in the country. But that's one thing he could have done positive as a response to that and say, look, it is wrong to take out violence against right-wing people or anyone that you disagree with. And from now on forward, I'm going to make sure no one in my party uses the word far right unless it really is far right. And I'm going to actually really police that better. I'm not going to allow them to call people Nazis or use that kind of language. And we're going to police it better. We can't control everyone else, but as a party, at least we can. But he's not going to do that because he's weak and pathetic. And instead, he will we'll keep seeing violence continue up. And I'm sure Andy Burnham's going to keep playing up to this and keep doing the same thing.
Well, exactly right. And I mean, as the outgoing leader, you would think he had a pretty good opportunity to actually do that because he doesn't have to worry about being popular anymore because he's already been kicked out, right? Natalie Fleet was one of the MPs who spoke about reform and called them bin men and accused them of having faux outrage about Anne Widdecombe's death, right? And this is a woman who's supposed to be the Minister for Safeguarding of Women and Girls. A woman's been murdered and she's making fun of reform and their worries about being attacked. When it then turns out, the following week, basically, a man gets arrested for threatening to shoot Nigel Farage, and he's a Lib Dem.
These are, I think, I honestly don't know how else to say it. I think some of these people are horrible and disgusting people. I think a lot of them, especially with the current Labour Party and the Greens, I think the big difference with the right at the moment in the UK and the left is and I don't want to generalize for all the left, because I know there are some genuine decent people there, but I think there is a difference. A lot of the right, we tend to have more principles and values. So I think we have these deep principles, these deep values, and we can debate them and talk about them. I think a lot of the left in modern day times, they don't have these principles and values. A lot of it is just, it's free Palestine, it's whatever's trendy, it's whatever's cool. They hop on these trends. So I think for them, the idea of on the right for a lot of people to go out and kill somebody that you disagree with, it is wrong, it's disgusting, it's disgraceful, and we know that because of our basic principles and values. But these guys, because they actually have none, and their values are whatever's trendy or whatever's the topic of the month, I think they somehow think it's okay to speak the way they do, act the way they do, look down on working class British people, which is what they do. They look at British people, working class people, with disdain. They have absolutely no interest in speaking to the average working class Brit across the UK. And they don't have to be working class to understand the problems that British people are going through. But I think the problem is what I've seen from them, they just seem to almost have a genuine disdain. I look at like even some of the examples of what's going on in the World Cup for the last few weeks, and you can just tell that there's so many of them that just don't understand the passion that this country has for football. Just as a simple point, they won't understand that because it's the working class sport, it's the working man sport. So for them, they don't understand what that feeling is for the country and what that actually means. Instead, for them, they will talk about issues that people don't care about in this country as much, or it's just issues that they care about rather than the people. And so I look at the reaction time when it comes to death, and I think it's been, that's one thing that could have potentially come positively from this, is the country uniting, Keir Starmer and the Labour Party, the Greens, whoever, as an opportunity to say, look, this was wrong. There's been clearly some political violence involved in this, political ideology even involved in this, and we're going to stamp this out. And you know what, like, it's an opportunity for the right and left to unite, or something along those lines. They've absolutely missed that opportunity. All they've done is made the right even more angry, even more frustrated. They tried to cover it up, and they've probably tried to cover up so much more things that's happened in the last few months, since Keir Starmer's been in power, and you're now left with even more anger, which is, how can, when such a person like Anne dies, when you're already angry and upset at that situation, how on earth have the Labour Party and Keir Starmer made us even more angry? Like, it's the most stupidest thing, but that's what they've done, and it's shameful.
It is absolutely shameful. Sunil, great to see you. Thank you very much indeed. We're running out of time, so we've got to run. But thanks very much indeed. Lots of common sense there from Sunil Sharma talking to us. Mark Littlewood coming next. Jamie Jenkins is here as well. Neil Oliver makes a return to the show. And coming up, Colin Sutton at the end. Ellie Hodges is here too. Jack Posobiec popping in on his way to CPAC. He's a big American journalist, activist, YouTuber, and of course, massive name on the other side of the Atlantic. We're looking forward to talking to him as well. Right now, though, let's get a bit of news with Edward Hughes.
Here, Edward Hughes here with your Thursday Bulletin. Keir Starmer marked the end of an era with an emotional final Prime Minister's questions yesterday, telling MPs, "This is the end of my political journey," before receiving a standing ovation. He paid tribute to his family and colleagues and pledged full support to his successor as Labour navigates its leadership transition, with Knob of the North Andy Burnham widely tipped for a bigger role. The murder of former MP Anne Widdecombe remains front and centre. Counter-terrorism police are investigating it as a targeted attack, and senior reform UK figures are now receiving round-the-clock protection amid heightened threats to politicians. On the pitch, devastating scenes for England as Argentina fought back to win 2-1 in the World Cup semi-final, ending the Three Lions run despite strong showings from Jude Bellingham. International tensions continue with further developments in the US strikes on Iran. Please remember to like and subscribe. Laters, Tigers.
This video is sponsored by Tally Money. I'm delighted to be joined in the studio by CEO and founder Cameron Parry. Cameron, very good morning to you. Nice to see you. Tell us what Tally Money is.
Well, at Tally Money, you get a savings account powered by gold. So we give you a sort code and account number in your name, just like a normal bank account, but instead of sitting in pounds, you now have milligrams of gold that we brand as Tally.
Okay. And how does it actually work sort of day to day? Do you check the gold price every day? Do you need to do that? How does that?
We use the spot price, what's called the spot price in gold, and that updates every minute. It's a live price. We don't charge any premiums or FX margins on anything on that. You just go about your day as though it was any other mainstream foreign currency, except that you see all your transactions in real time and you're not getting charged international transaction fees and things like this.
Okay, so if I move some of my money into Tally, because I've just opened an account, what happens to it? And is it one of those things that I'll just be watching all day to go, ooh, look what's happening today?
You might do, but you've probably got better things to do with your time, to be honest, Mike. I don't actually think about the little movements in price, because I know over time that on average it goes up more than 12% per annum, and it has each year for the last 10 years. Bank savings products or current accounts just can't compete with that at all. But the main thing is my money's sitting there. It's my direct ownership of an asset. When I use my Italia card, in London to buy a cup of coffee, the merchant still gets pounds.
Yeah, okay. To find out more about Tally Money and for a special offer for viewers of the Mike Graham Show, simply scan the QR code or click the link in the description right here. Welcome back to the Mike Graham Show, coming up to 6 minutes past 8. We are here, of course, until 10 o'clock, when today at 10 o'clock, I think it's Layla Cunningham, is that right? Yeah. Is that a trilby, says Seaside Babe? It looks a bit more like a sort of Panama hat to me, but I'm not sure. I can't be absolutely certain. Maybe somebody else could tell me. Is it a fedora? Maybe it is. Not sure. I'm not a hat expert, actually. I once did buy a Panama hat, but it was kind of made of more kind of lighter material than that, sort of basket weave or something. Anyway, let's talk to Mark Littlewood, who's back, of course, from his sojourn over to Mallorca, from where he watched the early stages of the World Cup. And the road, rather like Keir Starmer's political career, as he said yesterday, the journey is over, I'm afraid, for England. Mark, very good morning to you.
Morning, Mike. Yeah, how are you? I'm despondent, depressed, crestfallen, sick to the back teeth, heartbroken and a little bit hungover, but other than that, in pretty good spirits.
Other than that, happy Thursday to everybody, right? I mean, it was kind of... it was a great game, actually. I mean, I did enjoy watching it because it had the first half. It sort of had everything. There was all the usual, sort of pantomime villain type stuff from Argentina. All the fouling, all the falling around, the wrestling, the worrying of the referee every time anybody went anywhere near Lionel Messi. You'd think he was some kind of national treasure. Well, I suppose he is to them. When there'd suddenly be this gang of players would come around. So. But it was a sort of, it's being described this morning by people who know more about football than I do as a sort of tactical disaster by Thomas Tuchel, who'd done so well up until the moment he didn't.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, look, he's basically managed the team pretty well, but he got it wrong yesterday. Look, we were 5 minutes away, or 5 minutes of normal time away from getting through to the final at 1-0 up. And he put all of his chips on red, basically. He decided to go ultra defensive to try and protect that 1-0 lead. Had he done so, had England held on, which, if you were looking at the moving odds in the bookies markets at the time, was the likelihood, it looked like nailed on, just cling on for another 5 or 10 minutes, it would have been hailed as another tactical masterclass. But once the Argentinians had equalised, England didn't really have anywhere to go. We hardly touched the ball after going 1-0 ahead. We didn't just go defensive, we went ultra defensive. And I think he just tilted too far that way. And as I say, when the equaliser came, you were trying to think, well, how are England ever going to score again? So having put everything behind defending that 1-goal lead, once it evaporated, you could only really see the match going one way. I mean, congratulations to Argentina, right? Those words stick in my craw a bit as I say them, but they did exactly what was needed. And tragically, was it Enoch Powell who said all political careers end in failure? Well, all England football campaigns tragically end in failure.
They seem to, don't they? I mean, even Alan Shearer, who's not exactly unbiased in these matters, said you can't really argue with the fact that the best team won. Because they did. Because even towards the end of the game, I was sort of hoping with one hand that it would go into extra time, but kind of knew that if it did, it probably wouldn't end well for England. But at the end of the day, whenever they got the ball in that last kind of third of the game, I was kind of going, just hold on to it, just don't give it away. And they didn't seem capable of even just doing that,
Yeah. After we'd scored, which was a well-taken goal by Anthony Gordon, good cross from Morgan Rogers, I think that was the 54th minute. After that point, when England had gone 1-0 up, the possession statistics, who's in control of the ball, are eye-watering. England had 12% possession to Argentina's 88% possession. after we'd gone 1-0 up. That really tells you the story. Yeah, it was difficult to see, really. I once it equalised, I thought actually our only way out is to somehow cling on for extra time and then somehow cling on for another 30 minutes and somehow win a penalty shootout. But I was grasping at straws at that point. So tragically, I mean, it's been a pretty good campaign from England. Yeah. If you said at the outset, where do you think England will get to? Probably you would have said the semi-finals. We're not quite good enough still to win the tournament. So I guess we've about met expectations, but these 60 years of hurt go on and on and on. In 2 years' time, we've got the Euros, of course, which we're hosting. So maybe then you might actually see us win a trophy as we could win it at Wembley. But yeah, more disappointment. And I'm afraid England keep the track record in World Cups and indeed in Euros that when we come up against a really, really good team, we're knocked out. Look, we beat Croatia, who are pretty good. We beat Mexico in Mexico, who are pretty good. We beat Norway, who are pretty good. But Argentina are one of the very top elite sides. And it seems when we come up against an elite side, we can just never, ever get over the line. And very sadly, that happened again last night.
But it's pretty basic stuff, isn't it? You know, I mean, you're more of an expert than I am. But that the second goal, where Messi picks up the ball on the touchline, there's nobody anywhere near him. There's nowhere literally within, nobody been like 20 yards of him. And you kind of go, well, you're giving Lionel Messi pretty much carte blanche to pass the ball into the 6-yard box at will without even trying to stop it. And of course, it was a brilliant cross, and that was the second goal, and that was the end of that. And so, you know, they've only got themselves to blame, really.
Yes, so I think the problem was we didn't just go defensive. We went very, very deeply defensive. We were basically happy to have nearly all of the team in our own penalty area.
Yeah.
And that at some point, a player of Messi's standard, or indeed, he's not the only decent Argentinian player. They're a good all-round team.
Well, their equaliser was pretty decent, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was really good. But that was, again, another problem of England's defence. It wasn't just that we were defending, it's we were so deep behind the ball. So for the equaliser, Bellingham comes out to try and defend it, and it's just maybe half a yard too slow to get there. If he'd had another millisecond, perhaps it would have deflected out for a corner. But that was basically, we had pretty much our entire team in our own penalty box, and that was just too defensive. I think Tuchel would have thought, well, it sort of worked against Mexico when we clung on to that 3-2. But Argentina, I'm afraid, are different gravy compared to Mexico, and it just wasn't there for them. So we do have one more match on Saturday night. It's a bit after the Lord Mayor's show. We'll play France for the bronze medal. But I think come Sunday at 8 o'clock, I've got a sneaky suspicion that virtually every Englishman will become a Spaniard for the day.
Yeah, very much so. Can't let you go without asking you about Shabana Mahmood, who seems to have morphed into a very good Home Secretary, according to pundits abroad, who think that the markets are quite looking forward to her being made the next Chancellor. I'm not sure that she's going to be any good at that. I certainly don't think she was any good as Home Secretary, even though people talk about her all the time as if she's very tough and she's been very successful. Well, I don't know what at, because I'm sorry, I haven't seen the signs.
Yeah, I think the problem for her is if you take her at face value, Mike, she talks the talk, but it's nearly impossible to walk the walk, right?
Yeah.
So if her statements as Home Secretary had actually all become policy, she would have had a fair run of it. And I fear the same will happen to her as Chancellor. That she'll talk all about, we're going to balance the books, we're going to get spending under control, taxes shouldn't go up much higher, but she will come up against the political reality of the demands of Labour backbenchers. And the markets will measure her not on what she says, but on what she does. And it's a much more sensitive, rapid, in time reaction that you get when you're Chancellor than Home Secretary, in which people look, reflect, think about things. As Chancellor of the Exchequer, if you say something that doesn't happen, the markets will wobble almost instantly. And the real challenge, I think, for her will be, can she appease Labour's backbenchers without just throwing more taxpayers' money at the wall? And I suspect the answer to that question is no. And therefore, things will go from bad to worse. Whatever words pass her lips, she won't be able to take the actions necessary to get our economy going again. And those actions involve major, major cuts in government spending. And none of that is going to happen under a Labour government.
No, it certainly isn't going to happen under any Burnham, that's for sure. Mark, we'll see you at 12 o'clock. Thanks very much.
Yeah,
indeed.
for the post-mortem.
The post-mortem World Cupper show, 12 o'clock on UK Live Online. Mark Littlewood there bringing it to you. And also tomorrow, Friday, he'll be looking ahead to the World Cup final, of course, between Spain and Argentina. We've got a poll actually going, which is what is England's biggest defeat? 1066, Battle of Hastings, England versus Argentina, every Eurovision Song Contest, and the War of Independence. Apparently every Eurovision Song Contest is number one at 37%, which is extraordinary. 24% 1066, and War of Independence coming up last behind England versus Argentina. What was that, Charlotte? Nil point. Yeah, thank you very much indeed. She speaks French, don't you know? Maybe we'll give you the Legion d'Honneur, Napoleon's latest scenario. We're going to speak to Jamie Jenkins in a moment. Jude says this, what a scream this morning. Will has me guffawing on the train and people are looking. Yeah, that was William Yarwood, who was in earlier. He was quite outrageous today. He was brilliant. Nancy says, can the victims of migrants make a class action suit? Well, it's not a bad idea, actually. You could actually get together and sue the Home Office, because it's the Home Office who have screwed it all up. Mick says, morning Mike Pooch and Charlotte, the Keir curse works. England out. Thanks, Starmer, you complete numpty. Yeah, well, you could blame him for that if you want. Grantos has sent us a super chat. Thank you very much indeed for that. And Simon as well, as ever, Simon Kilford. Very, very nice to see you as ever. Lots more to come, including Colin Sutton a little bit later on. Neil Oliver makes a return as well. Jack Posobiec in the studio, a very big name from the United States of America, who's here for the CPAC week, starting later on today. I'm going to be doing a panel show with Dan Wootton and, of course, Jack himself. So we'll find out what that is all about this afternoon. And we may be able to broadcast a bit of it, I suppose, because hopefully it's going to be recorded at some point down there, as far as we know. But no doubt.
Anna as well.
Sorry?
Anna.
Anna Montgomery and Anna McGovern, right? Why did I call her Anna Montgomery? Anna McGovern is going to be down there for us as well, doing a little bit of interviewing, because there's big names. Nigel Farage is going to be there. All sorts of people are going to be speaking about a great many things. So look forward to all of that. CPAC will report back on it tomorrow, of course, for you. Right now, let's talk to Jamie Jenkins, our favourite statistician, who basically remembered Rachel Reeves in her final moments as not exactly the greatest chancellor we've ever had, Jamie. Very good morning to you. You said payroll jobs are down, borrowing is up, debt interest is enormous, taxes are rising, business confidence is weak, GDP per head is under pressure. And this is in response, of course, to her Mansion House speech, where she didn't burst into tears for a change, but she said that she'd fixed the foundations. I don't think so.
Yeah, morning, Mike. If she's fixed the foundations of your building while you're doing the show, you might start sinking before 10 o'clock. I think, looking at it. But yeah, she's very good at spinning stuff. And I did notice the tears that were coming out again yesterday, Prime Minister's questions. Mike, obviously they were the tears, not for Starmer. They're probably the tears that she's losing her job next week, because there's no way she's going to be staying on as Chancellor. And what have we had this morning, Mike? We're breaking this morning the latest GDP figures for May. So let's celebrate that big 0.1% growth that we've had in May, which is basically 0.1% growth, Mike. And it fell in April anyway. So no doubt she's going to come out later and say, oh, blame the Iran war and all of this. But we've seen production down, construction down. If these are the fixing the foundations, Mike, definitely don't go buy a house from her building company.
No.
I'd say that anyway.
No, exactly. And also, this is the same woman who just last Sunday, when she was being interviewed by Laura Kunsberg, when she was asked what was the biggest mistake or her advice to her to her successor, don't cry at work, she goes. And then yesterday, she was at it again weeping.
Oh, Mike, crocodile tears, isn't it? And let's look at the legacy she's leaving us. We've got borrowing around 274.3 billion since the start of, since the election. We've the jobs, the payroll jobs you're talking about a minute on, they're down. Ultimately, that's all people want, Mike, isn't it? Is the government to come in. Remember, the government's elected to represent the people, to try and help the people, not kind of impose higher taxes and more borrowing and spending more money abroad and all that nonsense that's going on. So if Starmer and Reeves have been doing such a good job, which Starmer's, I think he said yesterday, didn't he, that he's left the country in a better shape than what he did 2 years ago. And Reeves' mansion tax, talking about how great the economy is and she's fixed the phone. If they're so good, well, why the hell is Starmer being kind of pushed out and Reeves is going to be sacked next week? Yeah. That's the ultimate question. They're both off, because it's been an utter dire shambles.
But wasn't it shameful though yesterday to watch all the kind of hypocrisy in Parliament? I don't think I've ever seen quite as much hypocrisy in one fell swoop as them all kind of waving their order papers and cheering. And when he said leaving the country in a better place than it was when I inherited it, another great big cheer. And you go, hang on a minute. I mean, even Ian Dale, who's relatively sort of straightforward on these things, was like, it's pretty sick making watching that, because these are all people who have forced Starmer and Reeves out, and now they're all congratulating them on what a great job they've done.
Yeah, and why are they forcing him out, Mike? It's mainly because they want to try and keep their job, haven't they? Because there's only one way things were going with Starmer in charge. Is we had the local elections where loads of councillors have lost their seats. The Senate election, I know they weren't in power in Scotland, but in Wales they got decimated. So Starmer has done one part. He's destroyed the Labour Party. He keeps talking about the fact that after replacing Corbyn, he rebuilt the Labour Party. He's literally... Talk about fixing the foundations, Mike. He's literally blown the foundations of the Labour Party up, and that's why Andy Burnham's been the chosen one. And the fact that all those backbench MPs and the rest of the cabinet, not one single person between them were competent enough to challenge to be a prime minister, that they had to do some dodgy deal to get Andy Burnham in. It just goes to show how shambolic the whole party itself was, Mike.
Well, exactly right. And Burnham has not exactly set his stall out in a way which I think anyone would be confident about him doing a good job at, because he's done 2 interviews thus far. He's done Andrew Marr. He's done now Gary Lineker, who's I'm baffled as to why he would do that. And then the only other thing he's done is he went on Reddit one afternoon and said, send in your questions. I'll see how many of them I can answer. And then the whole thing fell over. So, I mean, he's had no scrutiny whatsoever, has he?
Well, no, and I think he got some questions, didn't he, from some GB News presenters, and he wouldn't even answer them. And so yeah, you're right. Burnham's had absolutely no scrutiny, and the problem you've got here, Mike, is at least when Liz Truss and Rishi Sunak went to the country, well, the Conservative Party, that is, to try and decide who's going to be the leader, you get a view as to what they're planning on doing. So we've got a new Prime Minister starting, with no idea what he's planning on doing. And let's not forget, the Labour Party got elected on a manifesto. I know we've had so many U-turns that I think Starmer's probably feeling dizzy from turning around all the time, Mike. And we got no idea. I read this week, and I did write on my Substack earlier in the week, Mike, with some of the backbench Labour MPs calling for Andy Burnham to increase foreign aid. So if this is the kind of area where we go, and if you think now, we spent 13 billion on foreign aid in 2025, we're borrowing money. So in May alone, we borrowed 23.3 billion. We haven't got money to be sending abroad, mate. Personally, I would get rid of all foreign aid, not increase it, just scrap the whole thing completely. We can't afford it. So if Burnham's going to go down this less appeal to the backbenchers, and let's have more welfare, let's have more spending, where's he going to get that? He's going to have to pay for more tax, isn't he? And we're already going to increase taxes.
And he doesn't really know exactly where he's going with that, but it looks like he's going to try and get some tax on more capital gains. Looks like he's going to try and get some more business rates out of people, maybe some more council tax out of people. But he hasn't got many places to go, has he?
Well, no, and the reason the growth figures are so weak, Mike, is because when you just keep taxing and giving it to kind of the unproductive part of the economy, and like the public sector is a good example as well, that's been increasing under Rachel Reeves. When you just keep increasing taxes, there's less money. People think, I'm not quite sure if I want to go spending any money because my taxes are going up. Put more money in people's pockets, Mike. They go out and spend it, and then you start getting economic growth. The key things Burnham needs to be thinking about. And Ed Miliband, there was obviously this talk about Shabana Mahmood or Ed Miliband or even West Street in his chance. So obviously that'll all come out in the next week or so. But Ed Miliband, this whole madness of net zero, the biggest tax cut technically you could do for the British population is just sort the energy bills out, because if you can get those, that's the key part. But the Labour Party have no coherent policy on that. Miliband's got no interest in doing that, Mike. And ultimately, when you've got all this going on, that's why the growth figures today are poor. Reeves has been a total disaster, completely out of her depth. So that's one silver lining of Starmer going, is Reeves is going to be going. But I fear that when we continue now, we'll be talking for the next 6 to 12 months, Mike, about things aren't getting any better, they're getting worse. So that Tony Blair music that he was playing for D. Ream, things are only going to get better, they can bin that one off before we even start with that.
Well, exactly right. Well, I was mentioning that yesterday, one of my little video that I put out from after Prime Minister's questions. Yeah, I mean, the cost of things now is extraordinary. I was in a chemist yesterday buying some Nurofen Plus. It was £12.50. And it used to be something like, I'm pretty sure the last time I bought it was only a couple of months ago, it was a tenner. It's now £12.50. It used to be about a year or so ago, about £8. I don't know whether it's just making it up now. The amount of money that you pay for stuff now is prodigious.
Well, yeah, but Mike, there's a good explanation for that one. It's because we've had 2 years of a Labour government, so the amount of headaches people have had in the country is flying up.
Demand.
So Nurofen, they haven't got enough supply of it, Mike, so that's why the prices are going up.
That must be what it is, supply and demand. Finally, what about the BBC? They've said that they've lost another 539,000 licences. One of the things that really annoys me about watching the football over the course of the last few weeks, whether it's on the BBC or whether you're listening to it on the radio on the BBC, they keep putting out these little messages saying, don't forget, you can watch all your favourite programmes if you just get yourself a licence, more kind of, sort of intrusion into your life, into your world, basically saying, if you don't have a licence, you shouldn't be watching it.
Yeah, I've never seen so many adverts on the BBC, considering they don't do adverts, Mike. The amount of adverts they've been doing for the TV licence, especially, half time during the football, they'll say, scan this QR code to pay for your licence fee. Well, most people who are watching on the BBC should probably have one. But you're right. So what we've seen, Mike, is another 539,000 licence fees have vanished in the last year, 300,000 the year before. And ultimately, Mike, shows like yourself, where people can come onto YouTube. If you don't watch live TV that's kind of broadcast across the country on normal traditional television channels, you don't need a licence fee, Mike. So people can watch the likes of yourself now. They've got choice. And people are voting and moving away from the BBC and the model of the BBC, Mike. I mentioned before, I worked in the newsroom shortly in the 2015 general election. And the model of the BBC is broken because there's so much choice out there. If you just go onto YouTube now, I think it's literally overtaken. It's one of the biggest broadcasting platforms, not just in the world, but in Britain now. But if you've got so much choice with Netflix, Disney Plus, you could roll and reel off loads of different options. And I tweeted about this the other day, and somebody said, but the BBC does all great things like last night at the proms and the news and everything. I thought, well, I remember during COVID, Mike, that's how kind of we got to know each other a lot with all the ramblings about what was going on in COVID. But the amount of nonsense the BBC was putting out around COVID, where they just miraculously turned up to a ward where nearly everybody was unvaccinated, apparently, when the data showed that the vast majority of people in hospital were kind of had the vaccine because they were generally older. They just seemed to just misrepresent what the hell was going on. So to talk about the BBC being a trustworthy news organisation, which is why there's that paper, isn't there, about putting them up on the algorithms on social media, is absolute nonsense. So ultimately, Mike, people vote with where they want to go, and they're voting away from the BBC. They're voting more for channels like yourself, Mike, and that is ultimately why we need to scrap the licence fee. If the BBC wants to survive on YouTube, put good content and people will watch it. You don't need to be pushed up the algorithm or given money to basically make it.
No, well, I've said before we should issue a Mike Graham TV show licence, and it's a lot less than the BBC one, and it's a lot more enjoyable as well. You can watch it anytime you like. You don't have to watch it when they say you have to watch it, Jamie, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Jamie Jenkins there with the latest from the world of statistics. And none of them are good, by the way. Government statistics all in bad shape. Growth 0.1%. So, like he says, that's 0.1/10 of a point of growth, which is not really any growth at all. And something I wanted to mention actually the other day, Heritage Live festivals have all been cancelled because people can't afford to buy the tickets. And this is from Hamwacker, who says all Heritage Live festivals with shows from Eric Clapton, Richard Ashcroft, Christina Aguilera and others, all cancelled due to low ticket sales because people just haven't got the money. You suddenly go, I notice it from time to time just when I'm paying attention, because a lot of the time you're not really paying attention. But yesterday, as I say, buying this thing from the chemist, I'm suddenly, crikey, £12.50. It used to literally be £8. So that's a 50% increase. And that's why I always say I can't understand this story that people try and feed you that, food inflation and inflation generally is 4%. It's not 4%. It's 40%, for heaven's sake. Couple of super chats to come. Have we got? Yeah. Let's do it before we speak to our next guest. Dopey Dave says, I don't understand anything. Well, you better get a job in the government then, Dopey, because neither do they. They don't understand anything either. Hamwacker, England defended our goal like we did our border. Yeah, that's, I think, a very good point. Well made. The defending towards the end was just a joke, wasn't it? Absolutely horrendous. Horrific. Ghastly. Useless. Right now, though, you might remember yesterday we did a little meltdown on the new idea from the Department of Transport, which is to drive around country roads in this country at 20 miles an hour. We've all seen the danger and the damage that's been done to the car business by people having to drive at 20 miles an hour around the cities of this country. And of course, the whole of Wales ended up being a 20-mile-an-hour zone as well. We got a message from Howard Cox yesterday after he finished talking to us that something like 50 million quid has now been collected by various councils around the country in fines, fining people for going at 23 miles an hour or 22 miles an hour, 2 or 3 miles over the speed limit. And a lot of people just can't do it. So we've got a new guest here who we haven't spoken to before. Jeff Buys Cars, is what I'm told, is the man's moniker. And I'm told, Jeff, that you are a very, very successful YouTuber and a brilliant man to speak to about anything to do with cars. So how are you? Welcome.
Everything you've heard about me is lies.
Excellent. Very good. Well, that's what I like. I like somebody who gets lied about, because it means you must be doing something right. So we had this thing yesterday where there's a Department of Transport, a recommendation apparently to all councils around Britain to tell them to clamp down on speed limits. And you probably would guess that most of them will probably go for it, because it's a massive cash cow for them, isn't it?
Well, again, it's one of these things. I've been documenting this on my channel for the last few years. The war on the motorist is going well, to be honest, just not for the motorist. So you've got 20-mile-an-hour speed limits that were rolled out in Wales. And yeah, as you said, the fines from these things are getting ridiculous. We've got more and more people getting speeding tickets now. A lot of your viewers have probably got speeding tickets when they've never really had them before. So I think the government not only sees motorists as a very easy place to get revenue, but it's all about control as well, isn't it? They've got to get these cameras up, Mike. They've got to get the cameras up.
Yeah, oh yeah, they have. And I was actually, I don't know if you know Howard Cox, I was asking him yesterday, he didn't know the answers to this, but these new cameras that they've got, certainly more and more of them that I see around the southeast of England, the really, really tall ones, you know, that are supposed to see inside your car so that they can tell whether you're using your phone or whether you're fiddling with your flies or whatever it is you're supposed to be not doing. I don't know if they actually also measure speed, and he wasn't sure. So do you know whether they do?
It depends who you talk to, but there's some, you know, these conspiracy theorists that keep sort of getting things right.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of the conspiracy theorists are saying that these cameras are even much more nefarious than that. So I think there's more to it than just AI. You know, are you on your phone? Are you messing with yourself? Right. I think there's a lot more to it, and I noticed these going up, particularly after COVID as well. I heard you chatting about COVID just before I came on. Just strange cameras going up at the entry and exit of villages and towns and cities. Right. The technology within these cameras, a lot of it is it's bizarre. It's way over and above just capturing images, put it that way.
Yeah, and I notice as well there's so many different kinds of cameras, because I've become very aware of it lately, because I drive around most days. I drive in and out of work, even though I'm in central London, because I come into work at some ungodly hour. And you find yourself sitting at traffic lights and kind of looking to see what's going on. And there's all sorts of, there's the smaller cameras that they put on the top of the traffic lights, which appear to just be, I don't know what they're for, just looking at you. And then you've got the really tall ones, which are sort of over there. And then you've got the ones that look a bit like a CCTV, where it's like a sort of, it's almost like a bubble that comes down, and it's got a black sort of shiny part to it, and then something else going around it. And there's like 7 or 8 different types of cameras.
And I would implore everybody to just have a look when you're driving around. Just look around at the different technology that is around. Have a look at the cameras, because you will notice different styles. That a lot of them are very similar to the ULEZ cameras, and I know there's a lot of work. There's a lot of work that's been done on how the ULEZ cameras are. They're much more nefarious than just capturing your number plate. Put it that way. Right. So yeah, and they are everywhere. But then again, if your car gets stolen, the cameras are no good to you. And no. I also don't think they're for catching people with no road tax either.
Well, that's the other problem, is if you haven't bothered to insure your car and you don't care about having road tax, there's a pretty good chance that you won't get done for anything. You'll just keep getting away with it, unless you happen to be unlucky enough to be picked on by the occasional police car that's going around looking at people.
Yeah, but that only happens if you live in a poor area anyway. So if you've got off-road parking and you don't drive through dodgy areas, you'll probably be okay. the police are really only there to police the poor people, aren't they?
Yeah.
That's all they're for.
Yeah, I suppose so. And they're only also there to make sure that people who are actually generally law-abiding pay their fines, because if you are not a law-abiding person, you're not going to bother paying a fine either, are you?
Well, it's like taxation, isn't it? I was reading something about taxation last night. You know, the people at the bottom of society, well, they don't contribute because they don't pay any tax. The people at the top, well, they're already paying their tax. But it's the people in the middle, the people who are on PAYE, and it's the people that abide by the rules.
Yeah.
It always seems to be the people that abide by the rules that get hit the hardest. And I see these posts on Facebook from various police departments, and it's, oh, you know, we've just pulled over this car. And some of them are like, it had no tax or insurance for 3 years. Well, fine, you might have seized the guy's car, but how much has he saved on tax and insurance? Because I just did my insurance renewal the other day, and it's painful.
Yeah.
Again, you were talking just now about things getting more expensive. Insurance premium tax came in at 2%. It's now 12.5.
Yeah.
My policy, I'm now paying the same amount to insure 4 cars that I used to insure like 8 or 9. And again, what you do there is you go, oh, well, I'll get rid of some cars. So you start shrinking things down. So again, the more they penalise the motorist, the more they penalise the economy. And again, just listen to what you were saying before. Well, they said growth is at 0.01%. I can't believe there's any growth at all.
No.
Speaking to people in the real world, going shopping in the real world, looking at what's happening. I do a lot of work with classic car auctions and classic car values. The market is absolutely on its arse. Excuse my French.
Right. No, because nobody's got any money. I mean, I've got a note here from somebody who said, I was going to try and get tickets to see Duran Duran at the O2, but the tickets plus a meal and a hotel would cost £1,000 for 2 people to go.
What?
And it's just insane. So you can't, but we were just saying that they've cancelled a bunch of these Heritage Live concerts because people just haven't got the money. And I mean, I don't know anyone who feels better off than 2 years ago when before. I know it may just be a function of the economy of the world, but I blame the Labour government, frankly, because I think they're one of the worst of all time. And people just aren't feeling better off; they're feeling worse off.
I agree. I mean, I saw Keir Starmer post on Twitter the other day something about it's nice to be walking out and leaving the country in a better shape than I found it. I'm like, are you living in the same country that we're living in? Because
he's not.
Nobody seems to be able to point to anything that Keir Starmer's done that's any good. I mean, that's a bigger lie than Sadiq Khan having photos taken with his dog and pretending that he likes it.
Yeah, right. It's a bit like him saying "I love you" to his wife in the House of Commons yesterday, which is the most ridiculous thing I think I've ever seen. You know, who goes to work and declares their love for their wife or their girlfriend or their boyfriend? I mean, it's just not normal behaviour, is it?
Whilst bumming Ukrainian rent boys, none of it adds up, does it?
Yeah,
none of it adds up.
I mean, they must be feeling pretty left out of it all now because he didn't say anything about them. You know, he didn't even mention them. You know, it's a shocking state of affairs.
There's a lot of things that pop up in the news and then disappear very quickly, isn't there? And again, that's where YouTube comes into its own. It's great for me to be able to pick up on news stories that just drop straight out of the mainstream media.
Yeah, I know, it's amazing. Now you've got
chat about BBC licenses.
Yes, well, you've been saying you've got down to 4 cars from 8. What's your favourite car that you're driving at the moment?
I absolutely love old Volvos. They are reliable and they work. So I try to buy nothing that is any new in the 2001.
Right.
Because after 2001, things get complicated, technology gets unnecessary. I just like an old Volvo estate and I like to do big European road trips. And that's all my channel was ever founded on. I just want to be able to always do big epic road trips and then, suddenly you become a right-wing freedom fighter just because you like driving an old Volvo.
Yeah, you won't be able to do that soon though when they put the 20-mile-an-hour zone into country roads around Britain because it will take you like all year to get from here to sort of, Cardiff.
Well, that and you've got, the cost of road tax, cost of fuel, pay per mile, all the cameras, smart motorways, ULEZ, low emission zones, all the rest of it. It's just one thing after the next, after the next, after the next. And you start as a car enthusiast and you end up as some sort of like Che Guevara, let's take down the government, just because I like driving cars.
I know, absolutely. And I mean, where do you park them all though? Because that's the other thing is when you find somewhere to park them, which doesn't cost you a bucket load of money, you'll be doing well.
I can't tell you because I've actually found the cheapest parking, but if I tell you, everyone else will use it, so I'm not going to let you know.
Excellent. And what about finally those what do you call them? Intermittent speed cameras that you can get. You know the ones where average speed check where you go down. They're on the A2 here in South London. So you're supposed to be going at 50 miles an hour for the whole period of time. I've never met anyone, or don't know anyone, and I've never got one, known anyone that gets a ticket from there.
The only people I know who've got tickets have been done in roadworks. Obviously, roadworks where
Yes.
there's very rare anything actually happening. But I think what we need to do now is we need to start a petition. We need to start a petition to remove all speed cameras, because there's a lot of data that shows that speed is very rarely the problem. But I think as well, we need a discount from the government, because the roads in the UK are now so bad. And you say an average speed of 50 miles an hour. How many times do you go somewhere where you can't even hit that average speed? Last week, I tried to drive from Cannock in Staffordshire to Bristol. It took me about 8 hours. So I didn't get any speeding tickets, but it would be very nice to get a refund for the extra time that it cost me, because the British transport network is just so bad. Then I got a train on the way home, and halfway on my train journey, I gave up because the train was so packed, and I got a taxi instead. What's going on with this country? We have just become a laughing stock.
Well, I mean, you're lucky you found a train that was actually working. I mean, every time, I don't use trains that often, but generally speaking, if I do, at some point or other, the train either gets cancelled or it doesn't go where it's meant to go, it stops before it's supposed to get to where it's supposed to go to, and you have to get off and get on a bus, or something else happens, or the driver gets off halfway to your destination and you have to get another driver. But there isn't another driver because there's a shortage of drivers, and so therefore you just have to get off and get a taxi anyway.
Well, I completely agree. I do a lot of jumping on trains around the country, collecting cars and delivering cars. But the funny thing is, for me, I'm a YouTuber. So if something goes wrong with transport, I get to make content out of it and I make it funny. But if I don't know what people do who actually have to get places. For me, it's always a bit of a laugh if I get delayed. But people have to live in this world. It doesn't work for people anymore. The country's just not working.
No, that is a great advantage for me as well. And everything bad that happens to me, I just turn into a story. Which is easily done. My favourite traffic offence that I got charged with was, for some reason in London now, they've got a lot of roads which have multiple uses, which means that at certain times you're not allowed to go down them. But you don't know that because you can't see the sign, because it's sort of buried away somewhere off to the side. But I went down a road somewhere around the back of Southwark tube station one day in the winter time. It was dark, and so I couldn't see any signs at all. And I was actually fined for parking in a street where I wasn't supposed to park. But the picture on the camera was of me not parked, but moving. So I just was so baffled by it, I didn't even bother appealing it. So I thought, I don't even know what this is for. And I never knew what it was for. It was 80 quid. I just paid it and then told the story on the show.
I've got an answer for all of that. It's a bit controversial, though. You know your car, you've got a white rectangle at the front and you've got a yellow rectangle at the back. Now, if those go missing, all of these problems go away.
Oh, does that mean you can't actually detect the car then?
Well, if you remove your number plates, then you're all right for all this ANPR and everything.
No.
Until they roll out complete digital AI facial recognition cameras which look into your car, which they will because they want to put those everywhere. But for the moment, just remove your number plates. Look at all these people driving around on foreign number plates. You've got foreign cars that came into the country years ago. They've never paid any tax or insurance or MOT because they're running on a foreign plate. I reckon that's the answer.
I could be right. Funny enough, when I got my car a couple of years ago, I got it new, and the back number plate actually fell off because it wasn't attached. They'd used the wrong adhesive, and it was quite an expensive car. I was quite surprised by that, right? But for about a week, I drove around without a number plate, and nothing happened. I didn't get done for it. No police stopped me. I was asked. I rang the dealer. He said, just put a piece of paper in the back window with what the number plate should actually say. And then if somebody looks in there, they can see what the number plate is. But I was quite liberated by it all.
Well, I crashed into I had a caravan on my driveway for a little while, and I crashed into it with my own car and split my number plate, and it fell off completely. That was about 4 years ago. Do you know the only place I had a problem?
Where?
At the Serbian border.
Normally, that's not a problem, the Serbian border. You just bribe them and they're good.
They weren't very happy that there wasn't a number plate on the front, but I put it in the windscreen and drove off, and that was that. So 5 years and about 50,000 miles later, I'm still going.
Brilliant. Well, people are enjoying your chat, and also they're loving the mug. The product placement scenario is done very well. Jeff buys cars. So, do you actually buy cars?
You'd think I'd be organised enough to be able to tell you where to buy one, but I don't know where you can buy them, and I haven't got any anyway.
Tell him not to go near a merch store.
Well, you should talk to our partner, Donald McLeod. He knows all about merch. He does it in one size, though.
Tell him to contact me then, because I need someone to look after my merch for me.
Yeah.
I do.
He's a bit busy at the moment, but we'll see if we can find some time for you. What about what was my final question to you was going to be? What about where you actually go? Where you think everybody should never go in a car?
Bradford.
I think that's a very good recommendation. Excellent. Well, listen, it's great to see you, Jeff. Are you buying any cars this week or today?
I do buy a lot of cars, actually. I have a taste for oddball, cheap cars. I like to keep stuff on the road, especially if it's really strange. And one of my favourite things to do is buy a very cheap car that's also very rare. So there's two YouTubers in the UK who have currently got Bugatti Veyrons, and they're making YouTube content about those. These cars are worth millions of pounds. Can I also say to anyone who's watching, we have 13,333 people watching. People who know my channel will know that 33 is my lucky number.
Wow.
Can I tell you? Would you like the world exclusive on my latest car?
I would. Yes, please.
I have bought an Austin Montego Countryman turbo diesel.
Oh, fantastic. Has it got any wood on it?
Yeah.
It doesn't have wood, but it does have a full roof rack, and should be arriving with me hopefully this weekend.
Oh, that's exciting. That's exciting. And so people can watch you doing things in it and with it, presumably.
They can. That sounds odd, but they can watch me doing things in it and with it. And yeah, as I say, so there's these two YouTubers that are getting millions of views on their Bugatti Veyrons.
Yeah.
But my Austin Montego Countryman is actually the rarer car. So join me on the Jeff Buys Cars YouTube channel to do that, and also to destroy a scamming auction house. That's been fun on my channel lately as well.
That's very good news. And I mean, also far more interesting to watch that car than a Bugatti. I don't care about a Bugatti Veyron, because what's the point of that? It's like £1 million or something. I had a taxi driver once in London, and he said, he was dropping me off I was going to some do in Parkland, and he said, I was here the other day. This 21-year-old kid hailed me down in King's Road, and he said, can you take me to the Dorchester? And he drove me to the Dorchester, and outside the Dorchester was a gleaming new Bugatti. And he said, that's my 21st birthday present. Do you want to come and have a ride in it? And he just went, no, really don't, because you probably crash it and it'll be embarrassing. It doesn't impress me.
You can't have that many friends if you're inviting a taxi driver you've just met to come for a drive, can you? I find that a bit odd.
That is a bit odd, yeah, absolutely right. Yeah, no, I'd much rather have an old Austin or Montego or an Austin Allegro or something like that. It'd be great fun. My son actually bought a Mini, which I used to love driving. And then he swapped it for a BMW sports car, which he's now trying to sell. So if you fancy getting your hands on an old BMW sports car, I'll give you a shout.
I'm always looking for old cars, but so long as they're less than £1,500, then I'm keen.
Yeah,
£1,500 is the magic number.
He won't tell me what he paid.
Cheap cars.
He won't tell me what he paid for it, so I suspect it's a bit more than that. But Jeff, really great to talk to you. Really fantastic. We must do this again. And
let's do it.
Where can people find you?
Again, that's a secret as well. But no, you can find me on YouTube, Jeff Buys Cars. Just search Jeff Buys Cars, Jeff with a G. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram. You can't find me on TikTok because A, I don't know how to use it, and B, they keep deleting my account.
Yeah, excellent. Good stuff. Great to see you. Jeff Buys Cars. Fantastic. What a
Thanks,
guy.
everyone.
Very much up our Strasse, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm getting abused by Donald now.
Well, he was.
I don't know why he's abusing me. I just gave him a recommendation to get some more merch in.
Selling the garage, he needs to set up his merch business properly.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know why he's giving me a hard time. Unbelievable. Anyway, like Jeff as a guest, though. He was good, wasn't he? Yeah. I like Jeff a lot. I think Jeff Buys Cars is definitely somebody we can do some collaborating with. What do you reckon?
I love it.
Yeah, definitely. It's coming up to 8:48. What are we doing now?
Neil Oliver.
Oh, Neil Oliver's here. Fantastic. The show gets better and better. Neil, very good morning to you.
Hi, Mike. Good morning.
Good to see you. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. I was enjoying listening to Jeff Buys Cars. I'm aware of Jeff. I think my father-in-law told me about Jeff first.
He's great, isn't he? I mean,
yep.
It's nice to know that there are still some good humans in the world, because it feels at times as though there aren't any left.
Yeah, I couple of cars ago, had a Volvo 940S, which is the biggest, boxiest Volvo estate that Volvo ever made.
Yeah,
and I was sad to see it go. And I presently drive a 2006 plate Chrysler Grand Voyager.
That's brilliant. I had one of my favourite ever cars when I lived in New York was a friend of mine who was a lawyer, had this huge, what they used to call, it was an estate car, well, you know, they call it a station wagon, but it actually had wood on the side, and I think it was a Chevy, and it's sort of 7 or 8 seater, and he couldn't afford, well, he didn't want to have it anymore. Parking in New York was a nightmare. So we were in a bar one night, and he said, "Do you want the car?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "I don't really want any money for it." But I ended up giving him $1 for it, basically. So we called it the Dollarmobile. And I used to just sort of, and it didn't matter whether you hit anybody in it. It didn't matter whether you parked it wrong or, you know, ran it up on the, it was great. I had the car for about a year, and it was the most fun I think I've ever had. And it was like driving a boat. It was huge.
Yeah, I mean, the Grand Voyager, the seats fold down into the floor, so it becomes like a van in the back, and you can get sheets of 8x4, you know,
fantastic
ply in it, and so on. And we've got a wolfhound, and you know, she jumps in the back, no problem. It's just this, and because it's an 06 plate, as Jeff was mentioning, it's got nothing in it like you know, like tech. Yeah. So when you get in it, as long as you don't bring your mobile phone with you, it's like being in a bubble of the past. There's no way you can get hacked or listened to.
Well, that's the other thing, isn't it? Because now we know, for example, that everything you do in a car, I mean, I've got a relatively new car now, everything's tracked. Because I'm sort of fairly simple at times. I was talking to a guy that knows a lot more about cars than I do, and I said, "How does it know that I need a service?" And it's like, well, because, you know, you get the record, you get the, you know, it's because it's all the information in the car is being fed back to the dealer, so they know exactly what you're doing, they know exactly where you're going. They've got your sat nav down as a sort of download probably at all times. It's quite frightening, really.
Yeah, I don't use sat nav. I mean, obviously it's got a plate on it, and you know the cameras will be reading the plate, and you know, I'm not pretending for a moment that I'm living some kind of invisible life. But as far as you can, it's a small act of rebellion, because you know you can't access what's going on inside that old boat from the outside. It is a bubble. Yes,
no, that is something that's worth knowing. I sort of hesitate to get you onto more serious matters, but we must, I suppose, talk about them, because we've now got the delights of Andy Burnham, who's about to come and run the country for us, despite nobody actually asking him to do it. Are you as disturbed about that as I am?
Well, yes and no. I don't think he matters. I've long since awoken to the reality that, I mean, they're just sock puppets. Placemen and women who get selected, not elected, and so on and so on. So, you know, whether it was Andy Burnham or Ronald McDonald, or it's irrelevant. And that, as far as that goes, he is irrelevant. Decisions are being made and things are happening in the country, but focusing attention on these individuals I think, is essentially pointless. It doesn't matter who it is. You could be angry with them because they're willing to take part in the charade. You know, they're willing to stand up and play a role, which, you know, makes them contemptible in and of themselves. But I mean, obviously, the bigger project that's been choreographed by people whose names we don't know and whose faces we're not familiar with, he comes in, pushes harder, or seems to push harder on the gas pedal to continue the car metaphor, you know, higher taxes, more things that are choreographed and confected to annoy people. So I think that's a huge part of, you know, there's enormous amounts of data going back decades that, you know, when it comes to manipulating people, maintaining a permanent state of anxiety is of critical importance there. Yeah. It's like with prisoners of war who exist in a state where they fear imminent death, the threat of death, month after month, year after year, not knowing what's going to happen next. And a lot of what goes on at the moment, everything's just designed to make people angry, set people at other people's throats on the basis of whether they're black, white, or brown, or whether they're Muslim or Christian or Buddhist, or whether they're gay or straight. As long as people are kept on edge, then they become that bit more susceptible to being nudged in the manner of a flock. Yeah. And so, I think it's important always to remember that if you're being annoyed, if you're enraged by the next thing, well, that's the plan.
Yeah, right. And it does seem like a lot of people are very annoyed and very enraged because I notice it as you walk around.
I mean, terrible things are happening. It's not as though that's illusory. I mean, terrible things are happening. An absolute, sordid wickedness is playing out all around us. But that is being put in front of people's faces to make them angry, because it will. If you abuse children, if you murder people, for no apparent reason, if you do all of these things, people get angry and anxious, and those things are happening.
Yeah, they really are. And I mean, I was really annoyed yesterday, actually, by the scenes in the House of Commons, where Keir Starmer was kind of departing like some kind of champion of the boxing ring, as if he'd done something great, as if somebody would miss him, as if people would be like, and I know you're going to say, well, he's just another one of the sock puppets, and yes, he is, but you could see them all part of the same game. They were all, patting each other on the back, and they were, putting aside all their differences and pretending that they all liked each other. It's all very weird.
It's all very well. It's a soap opera. It's if you invest it with any kind of reality. The little magazines, the sort of pulp magazines that are by the checkout in supermarkets, that have the faces of characters from soap operas on them, and they have headlines on them, and they invite people to think that there's something real in a soap opera, which of course there isn't. And that's part of that's the level that we're at. It's notorious, if you're still willing to pick a side, then you're prey. There's endless footage of when the cameras go off or when the debate's over. They wander about glad handing one another, laughing together, because they are they are actors playing the parts of characters in a sitcom. And it doesn't really matter to them. I mean, the first order of business at the start of every parliamentary session is topping up the pensions, the copper-bottomed, gold-plated pensions that they all share. If you think that a Keir Starmer is actually at daggers drawn with a Kemi Badenoch or a Nigel Farage, then, well, welcome to the show. I mean, that's showbiz. And if you want to be distracted by it and and have your emotions manipulated by it, well, okay, but it's not. It doesn't actually have a real bearing on your life.
Yeah. So what's the antidote to it then? How do you stay sane?
You turn away from it, I think. I mean, I think as long as too many people have faith in the existing systems, if you think you can vote your way out of it, to take but one example, then you're trapped. It's pretty much the little plastic steering wheels, to continue the car analogy metaphor, that people used to fit on the dashboard of their cars so that their 3-year-old could twiddle his wheel and pump the horn. But of course, the wheel's not connected. The little steering wheel's not connected to anything, and it just distracts the kid. Right. That's Parliament. Parliament is the little plastic steering wheel for the toddlers of the population who get all excited about turning the wheel, but it's not changing the direction of the car.
Yeah. So how do you know where you're going then?
Well, you just it is a massive shift. I mean, you
have to get out of the car.
Well, it's a massive shift in perception, I suppose, really. I mean, I freely admit that I was duped for 50 odd years. I mostly because I wasn't paying attention. I was too busy with, trying to get work and life, paying the bills and all the rest of it. But you've got to turn away from it. And you've got to accept that, it's very inconvenient, because the system purports to offer convenient life, which it does. You can have things done for you. And as long as you play your part in that, you're within the system, you're trapped in the car. And the solution, the beginning of the solution, is just to realize that you're inside a car that you're not driving, and the pedals and wheels that you're invited to think have any bearing on the direction are just plastic.
Yeah. But, I mean, that would drive a lot of people insane, wouldn't it? That would make people worry that they actually have no control over anything.
Well, when you wakening, it's a massive thing. There's no quick fix. We've been this illusory situation in which we find ourselves. It's the stuff of not just of decades, but of centuries. And any single generation that embarks upon trying to get out of it, it's a Herculean effort. But it just begins with realization. And there's an enormous act of humility in it. You've got to, the famous line, Mark Twain or whoever, who said, it's much easier to fool a man than to persuade him he's been fooled.
Yeah.
It's humiliating and embarrassing to admit that you've been gulled by a fiction. But once enough people realize it, then, effectively the lights in the theatre, to mix the metaphor, come on, and you realize that you're just looking at actors on a stage, and that they're wearing pan stick makeup, and that you can see the strings and the trapdoors and the badly painted sets, and then you think, right, and you look around at one another and you think, right, we are the audience. There must be somewhere better to be than this, and then you look for the brightly illuminated exits and you walk out the door, a la the Truman Show or whatever, but. It is a very difficult concept, but we have been willingly just going along with a fiction. But you can see it falling down around us. I mean, that's why there's this growing hysteria on the part of you can see it on the faces of the actors. That's why there's this desperate bid to, censor the internet, to have people take on digital IDs and to submit to the surveillance cameras that you were talking about, because there is no narrative for the baddies in the pantomime, because no one's paying attention, taking their lines seriously anymore. All they can do is try and shut us down, stop us talking, stop us sharing the idea. That's why it's becoming increasingly frantic. That's why there's a change of actor in the lead role. Get him out, get another one in. Is just all they've got. But increasingly, I mean, it took Keir Starmer a couple of years to become the most unpopular British Prime Minister probably of all time. Andy Burnham is going to walk into 10 Downing Street already as the most unpopular Prime Minister in British history. Everything's moving faster and faster, and it will become more and more chaotic, because the sowing of chaos, however bizarre and apparently incomprehensible it looks, is because sowing chaos and keeping as many people as possible on edge is all they've got. Yeah.
And they're struggling more and more, aren't they, to keep a lid on it all, I think, particularly with the way that the internet is going, completely. The way that YouTube is going.
Look at obviously, to go to the hackneyed examples, although there were people right away after JFK Dallas 1963 who called foul and said that is not what happened there. It was not that lone shooter. Yeah. And obviously the CIA popularized then the term conspiracy theorist, to demonize the people that had spotted it. It's not as though people haven't always been aware in small numbers, but it's taken generations, it's taken a lifetime for most people to now accept that, well, whatever Lee Harvey Oswald was doing that day, he wasn't the assassin of JFK. Then you fast forward to something like 9/11. 9/11 was the false flag that got the world into the war on terror. And again, people were calling that out as and when it was happening, saying, Building 7, hang on, all of it was being called out. But it's only taken a fraction of the time, comparatively speaking, before more and more people are saying whatever we're told happened that day. And 3,000 people did die, and it then launched a war on terror that has claimed millions of lives and enriched beyond the dreams of avarice billionaires and trillionaires. All of those things did happen, but it hasn't taken anything like as long for enough people to say, see that official story about 9/11, that's bogus. And with every succeeding false flag, and when the playbook is so worn out that now people, the moment something happens, the assassination of the murder of Charlie Kirk, people are all over that saying, see that story about Tyler Robinson as a lone shooter and all the rest of it? It's completely bogus. It falls apart like a deck of cards. And tragically, you come into the situation that we are in now in Britain with the murder of Anne Widdecombe. And as that was happening in real time, people were looking at that and saying, well, let's just wait and see what the official narrative is that comes out to explain that sequence of events, because I am telling you, it's going to be bogus. And that's where we are.
Isn't that also the danger, that you then think everything is bogus and it may not be?
I don't think it's because at the heart of it is coming to the realization that the official narratives are always manipulated. Cui bono, we've been taught to ask, who benefits?
Yeah.
And it's not a hopeless situation to be in. We've all acquired, internalized this, this acceptance of official narratives. And official narratives. I mean, you go all the way back to Edmund Bernays and the Marshall McLuhan. The medium is the message, and all of the rest of it. And once you begin to see the superstructure of how propaganda is delivered, then you see that, well, if it's the official narrative, let's ask questions.
Yeah.
Each one of us individually and collectively as a community and a civilization. If you wait and hear what the officials say, don't just accept it. Look at it for yourself.
Yes.
Look at it for yourself.
I'm very much in agreement on that. I'm just, I would say, slightly less sure that everything is a lie, as it were. It may be a manipulation, but it may not be a lie, if you know what I mean.
I haven't called anything a lie. I'm talking about false flags. I mean, events happen. John F. Kennedy, Dallas 63, something happened that day, real event.
Yeah.
9/11. Charlie Kirk, whatever. These things do happen. It's perception of them.
Yes.
And
I get that.
I mean, I've gone all the way back. I mean, I don't care about being called a conspiracy theorist. It's literally, well, it's metaphorically water off a duck's back, but I don't care about that. I look back. I grew up particularly when it comes to, say, terrorism and acts of terror. Obviously, I mean, I'm 59. I grew up through the Troubles in Ireland. That was some of the background to my childhood. The nightly news was punctuated by atrocities and intrigue and all of the rest of it about what was happening in Ireland. Now, that was a dreadful set of circumstances, and many people had their lives destroyed. People were murdered, and all the rest of it. That really did happen. But I look back in it now, and I think, was that official version of events really what happened? Because my goodness, it went away overnight when its use, apparently, when the trouble in Ireland was no longer necessary. Suddenly we got the peace accords and all of the rest of it. And who could fail to notice? My wife and I talked at the time about the fact that no sooner did COVID come along than international terrorism completely disappeared. And you would have thought, well, with everyone, with the world at a standstill, you could have thought, well, it's almost a free-for-all for the terrorist groups. ISIS and all of the things that we had been prepped to fear.
Yeah.
They could run rampant now because
they were working from home, though, weren't they? Terrorism from home doesn't work very well.
But there was none. There was no terrorism. And
right.
You say why? Well, it was because they didn't need terrorism, because the same states, and I say that there is no terrorism except state terrorism. The states didn't need the terrorists. Lads, take time out. We'll get back to you, but at the moment we don't need you because we've got everybody shut in their homes, terrified of something they can't even see. And because look what happened subsequently. Giuliani, the war on terror, made a demon of Al Qaeda. We were terrified. Al Qaeda's everywhere. It's the new jackal. Here we go. They're everywhere. They've infiltrated everything. They're going to come and kill everyone. Well, fast forward to the destruction of Syria, which was one of the 7 wars that was in that NATO embarked upon from the 2000s onwards. Syria was one of the countries that had to be destroyed. Giuliani, head chopper in chief for Al Qaeda. There's plenty of pictures of Giuliani online holding up severed heads with a smile on his face. And now Giuliani in a sharp Savile Row suit with a $20,000 watch on his wrist. They're queuing up the Keir Starmers and the Macrons and the rest of them to have their photographs taken with Giuliani, who's Al Qaeda, because the necessity for Al Qaeda's past its sell-by date. Al Qaeda. They're good guys now. When we need them to be the good guys, they're the good guys.
Right. Well, they were the good guys before they were the bad guys as well. So they've actually gone a full circle, haven't they?
Absolutely. The Mujahideen, they even made a Hollywood movie of it with Rambo 3 or 4. Where we were invited to see the Mujahideen as the freedom fighters and all of the rest of it. That were actually the put upon good guys. It's the same as the Fremen in the Dune trilogy. These desert warriors that when it suits, they're portrayed as heroic freedom fighters. then they become the bad guys, and then when it's better for the official narrative, to portray them as the good guys again. Oh, get that guy a sharp suit, and we'll call him a hero.
Yeah, amazing. Listen, we could do this all day, couldn't we? Really, but we must do it some more. I must say,
we'd probably get just as much balm for our souls talking about old cars, Mike.
Well, we can do.
Old
we can do it
cars
all.
are real. Old cars are real and to be trusted.
On this show, you can do old cars and Al Qaeda and dogs and everything. I mean, we do it all. So great to see you, Neil. Thank you very much indeed, and enjoy the rest of the week if you can.
Thanks, Michael.
Neil Oliver there talking some very interesting stuff there, right? I mean, you don't get this stuff anywhere else, really, do you? Only on this show.
Got David Icke on it.
What?
Got David Icke on it.
No, he's not getting on. Yeah. Charlotte thinks she's infiltrating my brain, but she's not actually. It's 10 minutes past 9. Is it time for some news with Edward Hughes?
Yep.
Hi there. Edward Hughes here with your Thursday Bulletin. Keir Starmer marked the end of an era with an emotional final Prime Minister's questions yesterday, telling MPs, "This is the end of my political journey," before receiving a standing ovation. He paid tribute to his family and colleagues and pledged full support to his successor as Labour navigates its leadership transition, with Knob of the North Andy Burnham widely tipped for a bigger role. The murder of former MP Anne Widdecombe remains front and centre. Counter-terrorism police are investigating it as a targeted attack, and senior Reform UK figures are now receiving round-the-clock protection amid heightened threats to politicians. On the pitch, devastating scenes for England as Argentina fought back to win 2-1 in the World Cup semi-final, ending the Three Lions run despite strong showings from Jude Bellingham. International tensions continue with further developments in the US strikes on Iran. Please remember to like and subscribe. Laters, Tigers.
Yeah, the hat is not working for me. I don't think you should wear a hat. Get rid of the hat. Edward Hughes with the news there. Thank you very much indeed. Colin Sutton's here, who of course today is, you are able to elect him if you wish to be the new Crime Commissioner for Norfolk, right? Morning.
That's right, morning Mike. If you and Neil do go on to old cars and dogs, then please invite me because I talk about little else.
I mean, old cars that you can put dogs in, especially, right? Yeah, amazing. Yeah, we've had a really interesting show today, actually. So now time to come to you and find out what we know about what's happening down in Devon and Cornwall. We spoke yesterday, I think, about the new guys in charge, the anti-terror police in London, who seem to be they certainly look a lot more capable than the Devon and Cornwall lot that were starting the investigation. What will they be doing at the moment, do you think?
I think they're looking into the connections and what they can find about this man they've got arrested, I guess, because it is now, we're told, an investigation of a planned terrorist type event, and therefore, was he on his own? Who was supporting him? How did he get his support? What was he doing? Who else might he have been targeting? What else was going on? So that's why we have the provision in the law to keep terror suspects for 14 days, because it's a difficult investigation and there's a lot of work to be done to piece together these networks, because they try to cover their tracks. Of course they do. These are sort of organised people. But I thought Assistant Commissioner Lawrence Taylor was very good in his sort of public appearances and his press conferences. And there is, I hesitate to say this sometimes because the Met Police is a big, unwieldy organisation and it has its issues. We all know that. But the one thing it does have in its favour is that the officers there get an exposure, a depth and breadth of exposure to big events that you sometimes don't see in the smaller forces. And I think sometimes when something large does happen elsewhere where they haven't got that sort of experience and that depth of knowledge it kind of shows. I got the feeling when Mr. Taylor came on to the TV the other day that the grown-ups were back in the room in some ways. It was kind of more as we'd be used to and as we want. I mean, it was an interesting day yesterday, wasn't it? With Zia's speech as well, and this idea that all MPs and former MPs should have protection. That's a hell of an undertaking. It costs an awful lot of money.
Yeah. Well, I think from what I was listening to, they were saying that the current budget of 4 million would have to go to something like 100 million. And you'd have to presumably ask the question whether I mean, a lot of professionals like yourself, I've seen quoted as saying, you know, it's just not possible to do it. You just couldn't really protect everybody in the way that you would want to, and you wouldn't really have enough people to actually do it anyway, would you?
No, that's the issue. I mean, you certainly wouldn't have the people to do it from existing resources and existing numbers within the police service. You know, there is a big industry around personal protection, private security, personal protection.
Yeah.
You know, whether you could call all those in, it's a really, really difficult thing to do. But I understand the sentiment, you know, and I think it's right. I think you've got certainly Reform. I believe the Conservatives and probably the other parties are actually going through processes at the moment to select their candidates for the next general election.
Yeah.
If you want the best people to come forward, and I think that's what we all want, don't we? We want people that have lived a life and have got experience from outside politics that they can bring to the party. But if you're in that position and you've got something to offer and you fancy doing it and you think you could do it and make an impact, when you see what's going on and what you're likely to be subjected to, you're going to think again, aren't you? And so it kind of militates against having a decent cross-section of people to be your candidates at the next general election. And we're going to be back where we are with people who have done university, SPAD, safe seat, and don't really know anything about the world.
No, exactly right. I mean, the problem for I suppose, for some individuals is that there are clearly high-profile people like Nigel Farage who have got a ridiculous number of death threats. I mean, it came out the other day, nearly 600 death threats in 4 months. Something unbelievable, you know, and thousands of other sorts of threats. And then yesterday, somebody actually arrested for threatening to shoot him, which doesn't happen very often, but probably now will happen as a result of these inquiries.
Yeah, it's ironic, isn't it? Because we've been banging on for the last year since I've been working there about not policing tweets and policing the streets, and here we are, actually welcoming the fact that a tweet has been policed. But I think there's a big difference between direct death threats and making people feel a bit sort of.
Well, yeah, and I think that's the other thing that we have to be careful of, isn't it? Because I was watching a discussion about this last night. You know, you shouldn't be policing tweets that are opinions, but you should be policing tweets that are threats. Right, that's the difference.
Absolutely the difference, yeah. And you know, it's. I've always thought that it's not the ones that threaten you that you have to worry about. It's the ones that don't threaten you and suddenly turn up.
Yeah.
I think why would you do it? Why would you issue a death threat unless you just wanted to cause upset, but you didn't intend to carry it through? But you know, you can't take that chance, obviously. And there's a very strong and robust law there about making threats to kill. And if people make them, be it on social media or in old-fashioned letters or even face-to-face, then it should be dealt with.
Yeah, absolutely. So where do we go from here then in terms of, I mean, if Zia says that if Reform get in, yes, we will have enough manpower somehow to make sure that all MPs are protected. What happens in the current Parliament, if you like?
Yeah, who knows? I mean, I don't think. Yeah, you're not going to get people organised quickly enough to protect the people now in the current Parliament. I mean, one of the things that might be a good plan is I've thought for some time that all this business about second homes and all this sort of thing, that actually it'd be much better if there was a building where, you know, like a hostel for MPs almost, but they probably want it branded than a hostel, but where they all had somewhere to stay in the Parliament together. And of course, if you did that, what you're doing is corralling them all in a place that's much easier to keep safe.
Yes.
Much cheaper to keep safe. So in the long run.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've been saying this for years because it would make far more sense for there to be a kind of almost like a dormitory kind of scenario where they could each have a bedroom and a bathroom. They don't necessarily need a kitchen, and they certainly don't need a whole flat or a house. You know, they could just be there whenever they needed to be there.
Perhaps we could use old army bases. No, maybe that's not a good idea.
No, maybe not. No, I had an idea actually for a prison ship. Get one of those old prison ships and just park it outside of the House of Commons on the river, and they could literally just walk onto it, sleep there, come back to work the next morning, no problem.
Yeah, Bibby Stockholm on Thames. That sounds quite a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, what's happened to the Bibby Stockholm? Is it still in use?
I've no idea actually. It was down at Portland or somewhere.
It was, It was, and then they all got TB or something, or Legionnaire's disease, and they had to fumigate the place.
Yeah.
So
I don't know that died a death.
So what do you do today? Are you out sort of telling people to get out and vote, or what do you do?
Yeah, you chew your nails to the quick, really, Mike. You know, it's the worst part of it, I think, today. And the count is the thing I hate. The count is an absolutely brutal exercise. Standing
Does that
there for
happen
hours.
tonight?
No, it's tomorrow.
Okay.
But obviously, because it's the whole county, we've got 715,000 electors, I think. So there are 6 or 7 different counts, and it all comes back into one. But just standing there for hours, watching pieces of paper, willing the cross to be against your name, I found it really hard work. Last time I did it. But yeah, I'm going out to meet some. I've got some people from Essex that are coming up to help us get the vote out today. So I've got to go and meet them after I speak to you.
Okay.
Set them up with some leaflets and a route of where to go. I'm going up to Norwich, where we've got a county council by-election as well as my election at the same day. We're going to do some work up there. Just carry on meeting people and rattling the tin and waving the flag until 10 o'clock, really, and then I say then it's count tomorrow. And it's been good. I've really enjoyed the campaign, to be honest, because I've been all over the place. I've spoken to so many people and so many different things, and there's a huge amount of support there for both for Reform and for me personally. If they all come out and vote, then I'm happy that we stand a good chance of getting a good result.
Sure, great stuff. Well, wish you luck. Wish you luck, Colin. We'll see if we can check in with you. Probably not tomorrow, because you won't know until late tomorrow, presumably.
No, next week though, Mike, if you like. Yeah.
Next week would be lovely. Yeah. Well, maybe there'll be some developments in the Anne Widdecombe case by then as well. So we shall see. All right, Colin. Good man.
Lovely.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. Cheers, thanks.
Try and enjoy the weekend if you can. Colin Sutton there, who's standing to be the Crime Commissioner for Norfolk. Today is the day you vote. So if you are in Norfolk, by all means, go ahead and go and vote in it. The polls are open until 10 o'clock, as you heard him say. Now, we've got Jack Posobiec coming in, believe it or not, very shortly. He's going to be on a panel with me at CPAC this afternoon. And I've just seen a piece of information in which it says that CPAC will be live streamed on YouTube. So if you want to look for it, I'm going to be on a panel from around about 20 to 2, I think it starts. 13:40 was what the time was, I was told. Somebody else is going to be down there. Joins me now. Ellie Hodges is here. Ellie, nice to see you.
Good morning. Good to see you.
Welcome to the Mike Graham Show. I'm wearing the first of my new ties that I was given by Jeff Banks. Jeff Banks sent me a big box of ties yesterday, which I was very pleased about. So, what are you going to be doing? You're a youth ambassador, I think, are you?
Yes. So I'll be doing lots of different things, but mainly, actually, I'm going to be doing interviews for my new YouTube channel. So
oh yes, has that started? Have you kicked that off?
I've put. There's only 2 videos up there at the moment. It's just one where I interviewed Nigel Farage and one where I interviewed Catherine, who's the strictest head teacher in the country at ARC, which was very fun. Today.
Are you going to interview me today? Okay.
Well,
I better stay sober then.
I hope you'll let me, Mike.
Well, of course, yeah. Well, you can speak to my agent, which I don't have.
Yes.
Yeah, Charlotte will be around. Yeah, funnily enough, I don't really know, like a lot of things that we do, because we're so busy doing all sorts of things, a lot of it kind of comes together at the end. You're not really quite sure. So I've got this panel, which I think, as I say, starts at about 20 to 2, and I presume goes for about 40 minutes or something like that, but they haven't really said.
They're not really saying a lot.
And then afterwards, we think we've got a stand, which has got a table, but we haven't seen it yet. And we're supposed to have a banner, but it hasn't arrived. So we don't know if we're going to have a banner.
Like a chair just sitting there.
So I think we've got 2 chairs and a table, and we're next to Dan Wootton, who'll probably have all sorts of all singing,
really
all dancing.
Yeah.
So we might just have to kind of sit next to him and try and get other people's attention. So I don't really know.
You could just kind of just take bits out of your studio. Maybe.
Well, I wondered about that. We'll take a heron and the sign, maybe. Take the Mike Graham Show sign. But I'd be worried you'd drop it on the tube, though, and break it. Because I've always said to Pooch that we should have a spare one, and he's never bought a spare one.
Someone notices it's you on the tube.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah. So I don't really know exactly how it's all going to play out. Really.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. It's their first one that they've ever done.
I mean, there's some very interesting guests. Jack Posobiec, who's coming in to the show, is going to be on with me, and Dan Wootton, and an Australian senator.
Okay.
We're going to be talking about the media how to kind of how to really recreate a better media and a different media than the one that we've sort of had to put up with for so many years, because so much of what I've known about the mainstream media and the newspaper business that I was in before and the broadcast business I was in, it's very liberating to be here now, having been in all of that, because there are certain attitudes that those organisations have about things which don't really ever change.
Yeah.
Like this morning I was listening to a bit of Times Radio and they were going on about Shabana Mahmood becoming the new Chancellor, and apparently she's now the sort of front runner for that. And they were talking about what a great job she's done as Home Secretary and how brilliant she is and how kind of, she's managed to get the numbers of migration down, net migration. And I thought to myself, this is all just rubbish. It's not...
I think all of that, just kind of Sky News, Times Radio, they have an opinion that they won't change, and they're part of the establishment in many ways.
Yes.
And I haven't actually said this publicly before, but I decided I was going to talk about it. So I was at a summer party, and there was like Labour MPs there, and a mix of everyone. And I spoke to, I'm not going to say their name, but I spoke to quite a prominent presenter at Sky News.
Right.
And I just went up to them as a young person, and, nice to meet you. Can you just give me some advice on this, blah, blah, blah. They went, well, you've been near GB News, so we won't ever touch you.
Really?
Yeah, and I thought, wow, okay, right, okay. They said if you want to change
thanks for watching.
They were like, if you want to change your path, then you better do it quickly, kind of thing, because you've gone near GB News and Talk TV and your channel and stuff. And I just thought, that's such an awful opinion to have.
It is. And it's really snobbish, apart from anything else.
It is. And somewhere like GB News, that is actually the most viewed news channel in the country.
Well, I mean,
right
Sky
now.
is more likely to be folding and going under than GB News is anytime soon.
I don't understand why, as someone that's just kind of coming into this world, why I'd go, I want to go to Sky News, because they're under so much criticism at the moment, and they're not doing well in terms of viewing figures,
And nobody
really,
watches
as
it.
well.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It used to be the case that I would always put Sky on just in the background if I was mooching around the house or cooking or doing whatever. But now I don't bother because it's so bad that actually I tend to more likely have GB News on.
Yeah, no, same.
Because I never have the BBC on anymore. I mean, that stopped many years ago because the BBC News channel is just awful.
Yeah, I think just all kind of independent news stations like yours are just really important, and it's good that people can have the choice. And we're seeing that the government at the moment, they've published a green paper on trying to basically limit what you see on YouTube and those kind of social media. So it's their trusted news sources.
Yes.
This is the BBC, Channel 4.
Right.
So this is what already happens when you open YouTube. If I was to search up Keir Starmer's resignation, the first maybe 3 or 4 things that would come up would be the BBC, Channel 4.
So do you think that's already happening then?
In many ways, because the government class them as news organisations that they can trust. They're trusted news sources.
Right.
But this Green Paper was basically saying that they're going to be doing that even more to stop misinformation.
Yes.
Only kind of trusted news sources will be the ones that come up on your algorithm. So when you're just scrolling, there will be the things that come up. And I just thought, come on, that's actually kind of moving towards not freedom of speech at all, and limiting.
But it's also making a value judgment on something which isn't necessarily right, because I wouldn't call the BBC a trusted news source, because nowadays, for example, the more you see people answering surveys and things, the BBC has never been less trusted.
Not trusted
because of some of the things they've done. I mean, look at the Trump situation where they're being sued by the President of the United States of America because they've doctored a video, right? Look at all of the misinformation they put out from Gaza with Jeremy Bowen, who I talk about a lot because he used to be a great reporter. He was the sort of doyen of the foreign correspondence of particularly in the Middle East, and he got to know the Middle East really well. But now he's more or less a Hamas kind of, propagandist, because I've seen him interviewing people from Hamas, and there was one piece of footage where he got up at the end of the interview and hugged the guy. And you're thinking, it's all very well being friends with people that you interview. And then there was that terrible story of, do you remember there was supposedly an Israeli attack on a hospital where 500 people were supposed to be killed. And he reported on it and said that it had been shown to be an Israeli rocket, and it was 500 people dead. And as a result of his report, there were kind of mass uprisings all over the place in the Middle East, like in Tehran, in I think Baghdad as well. People were like out on the streets shouting, saying death to Israel and all this. Then it turned out that not only was it not an Israeli rocket attack, it was a rocket that had come from Islamic Jihad, which had misfired, and it hadn't hit the hospital. It had gone and hit the car park and hadn't killed anyone. And so he didn't apologise, didn't correct it.
Because it fits his narrative.
And so when he was asked about it, because they used to have that show Hard Talk, which I think they've done away with now, and he appeared on Hard Talk and they were talking to him about it, and they said to him, do you regret making that report? because of all the damage that it caused in the Middle East? And he said no. So he didn't actually regret the fact that he deliberately and falsely put a report out that wasn't true.
I think it's because they just care about whatever their ideology is and that being put first. And I think we see that a lot of the time now. But especially with the war in the Middle East, it's actually really hard. You've got really, really good journalists that can't actually comment that much on it because there's not a lot of actual strong, definitely 100% information and statistics.
Right.
So for someone to come out with something like that that's going to, of course, anger people when it's not actual fact and it's not confirmed is not okay.
No.
But I think that a lot of people now don't actually care if what they're saying is factual, if they have any statistics to back up what they're saying. They just care as long as it fits their narrative and it fits their ideology.
This is one of
they
the,
don't
I
care.
think, worst developments of modern kind of information gathering, which is that if you are of a particular, persuasion politically, you want a particular statistic to work for you. So you'll kind of massage it a little bit and apparently that's okay. Well, it's not okay.
No.
Facts are facts and people unfortunately now are more likely to have their own sort of facts, which may not be provable.
And genuine misinformation, I hate to use that word because the government use it all the time in the complete wrong context.
Well, most of it comes from them, actually.
But exactly, and genuine misinformation is actually really dangerous. We've seen with the Reform MPs the amount they're being harassed by people who think that they're fair game because some of the rhetoric that's coming out of politicians' mouths, actually, and many of the public and articles that are pushing this idea that they're Nazis, that they're all of these things that are very, very toxic things to say and will, of course, provoke a reaction of some people. And I mean, you just see the amount of abuse that they go through. I know that Robert Jenrick and Richard Tice have got this young guy at the moment that's just following them and harassing them all the time, and every single time they come out of a meeting, he's there asking them questions with a phone in their face. But it's almost as if they think that's okay, and I think in the age of social media, people can't actually see what is the normal thing to do anymore, and they think that it's okay to just harass MPs and that they're fair game.
Right. Yeah, because there's no limit on it. And I mean, there was a time probably when I started doing this job when that wasn't something that was happening because you didn't have people with phones filming you because there was no such thing. You couldn't do it, And if you wanted to be at a press conference, you sort of had to be a member of the press. You had to have an NUJ card. You had to go to Scotland Yard and get, an actual kind of sign-off that you were a legitimate individual. Whereas now, and I'm not saying this is on the face of it a bad thing, but now almost anybody can do it.
Yeah.
And that can be problematic if they're not properly trained, if they don't really know what the rules of engagement are.
And also, when you have mainstream media like Sky News going to, for example, Nigel Farage's daughter's house, then everyone with a phone will then think that's okay to do. And that's the problem, is the mainstream media in many ways is still kind of setting an example for up-and-coming people. I say that, as someone that's up-and-coming myself.
Right.
So I can kind of understand young people when they see the mainstream media doing this kind of thing with door knocking or whatever it is, they will then go and do that because they still set an example in many ways. But I think, the problem of MP security has been coming up a lot, obviously, in the last week. And I completely understand now why our MPs aren't as of good calibre as they used to be, because people don't want to get into really good, decent people.
Right.
Some people that might even be watching this that might think, I want to get into politics, will think, actually, no, I don't want to put my family's lives at risk. I don't want to put my life at risk. And that's really sad.
And you shouldn't have to either.
No, exactly.
Right.
But I think that we've got to a point in this country now, kind of similar to where America was and still is, where we're just completely polarised in terms of the views that different people have. And you have some people on the left that literally won't speak to people on the right, and some people on the further right that won't speak to people on the left, which is really unhelpful because debate is one of the most, I'm really strong on this because I think debate is one of the most important things in society. And every time I have a debate with someone, I either go out of the debate thinking, yeah, I'm stronger in my opinion, I was right. Or I come away actually learning something. So debate is so important and we need to make sure that
Do you find it more difficult though to find people to actually argue with?
Yeah,
because
and I love a good argument.
Right, yeah.
But it's hard to find people on the left that are actually willing to sit down with someone that's right-wing, because a lot of them do think that right-wing people are just evil people with the most
And also
horrible...
you'll get that Sky kind of reaction, won't you? Well, you do stuff for GB News and Mike
How
Graham, so
dare
you must not be a good person.
I know, it's really bad, and people do see your politics and say, okay, this must be a horrible, awful person just because of their politics.
Yeah.
And social media has not helped that at all.
No.
And I think that we've just become really polarised, and it's really upsetting actually, because as a society we should be able to talk, even if we have different political opinions, and debate and hash things out and come to conclusions by talking to people that you disagree with.
Yeah. And what do you make of this now attempt, or pretty lame attempt actually, by the government to ask teenagers to kind of to sort of censor themselves and go, oh, after midnight I'm not going to look at anything on social media, but it's going to be voluntary and it's not really going to be something they can enforce. What do you make of that?
Well, teenagers will just do it even more now, because when have teenagers ever listened to what the government say or what their parents say?
Well, you're not going to suddenly go, right, I'll switch the phone off because it's midday.
Yeah, Keir Starmer's told me to, let me just go put my phone away. No one does that, because it's like this social media ban for under 16s, and they spoke about doing it for 16, 17-year-olds as well. It quite literally will not work.
Yeah.
And whenever I say this, there are some people that have, I don't doubt that people have genuine good intentions with it and think that this will, keep children safe, get them off social media, because social media with young people is a genuine problem, but it will not work because people will find other ways. I think 10 social media apps are being banned. All that will happen is more apps will be created that aren't really social media, but they are.
But they'll somehow be outside of the
or people
regulation.
will just get their older sibling to use their ID, or whatever it is. People find ways around things, and I know this because when I was at secondary school, I remember that my parents didn't really want me on social media that much. I would go on the school computer, I would go on my iPad. I'd find ways around it because children are always one step ahead of their parents who didn't grow up with technology.
Yeah. So is there any point in trying to regulate it then, do you think, or not?
I think we can put pressure on kind of these big tech companies to do more to protect people on social media, but it's also not just children. It's some of the stuff you see on Twitter, for example, that's just really violent, awful things that nobody should really be seeing. That kind of stuff can be regulated, but I just don't think it will work kind of doing this social media ban. We've seen in Australia, they have the social media ban for under 16. It's literally not working.
And it's just not working.
I was in Australia a couple of years ago, and I remember speaking to people who were like 15 and they were on social media. Everyone was, because people don't follow the rules, simple as.
No, exactly right. Good. Okay, well, listen, I'll see you later on down
I'll see you later on.
CPAC, which is kicking
You've
off.
confirmed I can interview you now, yes?
Absolutely, yeah. I don't know when, though. You just have to kind of hang around because I don't know what I'm doing, as per usual. But Ellie Hodges there, thank you very much indeed. What's your YouTube channel called?
Just Ellie Hodges. Just search my name.
Just put
I'll
it
be
into
there.
the search engine. We've got Jack Posobiec coming in. Is he here? He's here. Oh, Jack. Hey, how are you? Good to see you. Welcome to the Mike Graham Show. We'll get you we'll get you hooked up and on very shortly. First, though, let's get some news with old Edward Hughes and his hat.
Hi there, Edward Hughes here with your Thursday bulletin. Keir Starmer marked the end of an era with an emotional final Prime Minister's questions yesterday, telling MPs, "This is the end of my political journey," before receiving a standing ovation. He paid tribute to his family and colleagues and pledged full support to his successor as Labour navigates its leadership transition, with Knob of the North Andy Burnham widely tipped for a bigger role. The murder of former MP Anne Widdecombe remains front and centre. Counter-terrorism police are investigating it as a targeted attack, and senior reform UK figures are now receiving round-the-clock protection amid heightened threats to politicians. On the pitch, devastating scenes for England as Argentina fought back to win 2-1 in the World Cup semi-final, ending the Three Lions run despite strong showings from Jude Bellingham. International tensions continue with further developments in the US strikes on Iran. Please remember to like and subscribe. Laters, Tigers.
That hat's definitely not working for me. I mean, we can give him a different outfit tomorrow. Here we are. Listen, it's coming up to 9:38. We've got 20 minutes to go. At 10 o'clock, Layla Cunningham is here next door with the UK Live Online 10 o'clock show. And then Mark Littlewood's in to do the World Cup show after last night's horrendous debacle where England lost to Argentina. But Jack Posobiec's here. Jack, great to see you.
Well, it's great to be here in the flesh.
In the flesh.
And I appreciate the invitation from CPAC to come and speak here. I actually did get to watch the match last night, and my condolences, of course, to England. But But, I think there were so many fouls by Argentina. This was not a clean win.
Well, the Argentinians are famous for that. I mean, that is what that's what they always do. And at one point, I think in the sort of halfway through the first half, the commentators were kind of saying, we've got to be careful not to get stuck into what they want us to do, which is basically to respond and to start throwing punches and to start getting sent off and all of that, So yeah, I mean, at the moment, we're all still struggling in many ways at the idea of an England manager who's actually German, right?
Yes,
Which
I
was
heard,
also
yes.
kind of difficult. And
Yeah,
I actually
right,
said to
right.
somebody this morning, do you think he was a plant? Do you think that the
Oh,
Germans kind of
yes,
said,
yes,
right,
yes.
give them this guy, and then when they get really, really confident and they think they've got to the semi-final, then you pull the plug.
Well, those
Because
Argentinians and Germans, you know
there
what
are.
they say.
They do like a bit of collaboration, don't they? But so tell us. You've been here for a few days. I don't know when you were last in London, but what have you made of the general kind of atmosphere of London? You'll know better than me that in America, an awful lot of people are looking at Britain right now and going, "What's happened to it? How has it become this bad?"
What's very interesting, and I just caught your last conversation, but having come from the United States, that over there we have X, but we have unbridled X.
Right.
When I came here, suddenly I started scrolling and said, "This video is disabled in your country. This
Right.
video is disabled in this media is disabled." I've never seen it.
Right.
In the United States, we don't have that
Right.
at all for anything in terms of the censorship, and that's just the online atmosphere. Now, there are, as you guys were saying, there are other ways you can go to different apps, but then again, you're ghettoizing yourselves
Sure.
rather than actually sharing in public discourse. But when I look at the state of London, I would say it's probably been about, if I'm remembering correctly, about 5 or 6 years since I've been here last. It seems so different.
It's a very different place.
In such a short time.
Yeah, absolutely
In
right.
such a short time, it seems incredibly different. And my oldest son, when he was very young, just 2 months, we actually had him here and spoke. I was speaking at this UKIP rally years ago, and we just had him. I said, we'll bring him along, and we took him to the Churchill War Rooms and took him to the palace, and did some of that, and I went and did my thing. And even now, I think I didn't feel that it was unsafe to bring a 2-month-old to London. Now I've got an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old, and I'm thinking, I don't know if they should be around all these places, even in the tourist areas where we mainly are. And I've noticed that a lot of the tourist areas, even things for children, close very early. 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the evening, when you'd think we're in the middle of July, it's peak tourist season, and we're noticing these things, but it seems the character, all of it is very changed. And even my children are asking me, they said, where are all the British people?
Yeah. Well, this is the thing, and I say this a lot, and
but I would also add that we did take one day to step out to Bath.
Okay.
And it was gorgeous.
Much,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yes.
I went to university there, funnily enough, so I know it pretty well.
Wow.
I haven't been there for a while. But the thing that's changed for me is that, I was born and raised in London, many years ago in the 1960s and 70s I grew up. And, it was always an international city. There was always people from different parts of the world. There was, my parents used to take us out once a week to a different restaurant, Italian restaurant, Greek restaurant, Indian restaurant, that kind of thing. But it was still very much an English city, whereas now it doesn't feel like an English city anymore. It feels kind of like just a foreign city. I mean, people, we were all laughing about it actually the other day because we've had a few heat waves, which have been a bit unusual for us. And people were saying, it's like being on holiday now because you go onto the street and it's really, really hot and nobody speaks any English. Because you can walk through London, I can do it on any given day.
Yes.
And you don't hear people speaking English.
No, it's exactly right. And so I'm hearing a lot of Mandarin. Obviously, you're hearing a lot of Middle Eastern languages. The idea being that, of course, when you look at the buildings, right, the architecture, it's okay, it's British, it's English. You can see, of course, the kids wanted to see Big Ben. They say good morning to Big Ben every morning. I'd love to say good morning.
And it's still beautiful. I mean, the look of it is still beautiful.
But as we go around, so we were filming this, just a social media video, kind of walking across the bridge there, and the different music that you're getting hit with as you're walking across. It's clearly foreign music. It's something from the Punjab or something from somewhere in the Middle East, and it doesn't have that same feel that we felt a decade ago or even 5 years ago traveling here, and having them come in and because, as I said, my children are younger. We're doing more children-oriented events. We don't see many British children.
Right.
we just don't see them. We went to the Paddington, you know, of course, because the kids love Paddington.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they?
Right.
And they tend, you know, they're we're of Eastern European background, but you know, they tend to be the only ones who seem to be anything from the continent, to put it that way.
Right. And would you say that America is not like that? Because I spent 10 years in New York.
Well, it depends where you are. New York is like that.
New York was very much an international city as well. But the thing that I say that was different from where we are now and what New York was like in the 80s, I was there like 83 to 92, something like that. Everyone wanted to be a New Yorker. So they would be from somewhere else perhaps, but they wanted to buy into the American dream. They wanted to get a house in New Jersey and whatever. I haven't been to New York.
I would say
recently.
that in many ways, what this dynamic that you see in London is very similar to what we've seen in New York. When we were just in New York, we went for we had these flyovers for the 250th, and the tall ships came through, and it was actually gorgeous. But you know, when we have Zoran Mandami as the new mayor of America's greatest city, and you look at the demographics in terms of the voting breakdown of how his coalition was, you know, put him in office, you see it's the same thing. It's not off of the native New Yorkers, the people who are born and raised in New York from you know the 80s, the 90s. It's from new arrivals.
Right.
And because there have been so many new arrivals, well, they vote for another new arrival, and that's Zoran Mandami, and they're able to parse out enough of a percentage of the sort of older coalition, break it away, and so you've got Andrew Cuomo, who was also running, the son of the former governor, and if you've ever read Bonfire of the Vanities by Tom Wolfe, it's very much.
I lived that. I was there when he wrote that.
It's the next phase of that coming through, where now you've got the African Americans and the Italians are sort of being pushed out for the new coalition.
Right, interesting, because I guess when I was there, the Irish had kind of been pushed out into Queens, and there was a new immigration wave. But it does again seem as though the immigration wave that we have now, and they call it the Boris wave here now, because under Boris Johnson, he was supposed to.
I've heard that, and I'm totally stealing it for the Biden wave back home, because it is the perfect term. And I forget who I heard say it first, and I said, my gosh, why are we not saying that in the US?
Well, it's interesting, because Boris Johnson came in 2019, and his promise basically was to reduce immigration to something like net 20,000. And it was hundreds. That. Yeah, it ended up being over a million. And even now, the current government are claiming that, you know, we've got it under control because net migration is actually down to 250, 300,000 from about 1 million. But the reason for that is not because there's fewer people coming in, it's because there's more people leaving.
Wow.
And so we're having a sort of double whammy now, because what you've got is a lot of tax-paying people who would be normally contributing to the wealth of the country, leaving to go and live in places like Dubai, in Portugal, which is quite user-friendly for us, places like Malta, places like Italy, you know, places where basically if you've got you don't have to have loads of money. If you've got a bit of money, you can move away from the UK, where the taxes are getting higher and higher, and where the welfare state is getting bigger and bigger. And the whole idea of immigration, which was under Boris Johnson supposed to supply us with cheap labour to do the jobs that we didn't want to do, instead has actually caused a wave of people on benefits and people actually dependent on the state.
I'll do you one better, is that I actually have, I mentioned I'm Eastern European, I have one part of my family that was from Poland, had been living in London for about a decade. They've just moved back to Poland.
Yeah.
My own family.
Right.
You know, cousins.
Yeah.
And
because they just weren't enjoying it anymore? Or?
It was a bit of, well, it was the competition from what you're talking about here. And it was they were concerned about the rise of crime.
Yeah.
And they said, you know what, in Poland, we don't have these issues.
No. And they don't have these issues because they don't have the same levels of immigration. It's well known that one of the reasons why Eastern European countries are performing at least as well as they always did is because they haven't changed significantly. But most of Western Europe now has been ruined. And I mean, I'm not frightened to say that. A lot of people are frightened to say it because it's, you know, considered to be a bit, you know, what you would call uncivilized to say that we don't want people from other parts of the world. But there are some parts of the world we don't want people from. It's as simple as that.
Well, when you have a system in the Western system of Western civilization where you believe in rights, you believe in extending those rights to all, and particularly you believe in individual rights.
Yeah.
And this is something that I believe in, and Charlie Kirk, when he was here, gave a speech and was talking all about this, about how this is so much part of our shared heritage.
Yeah.
But when you bring in people who fundamentally reject this vision, who fundamentally reject this view, it isn't a question of, oh, they'll be assimilated in a couple generations.
No.
They don't want to assimilate.
No.
They're not interested in assimilation. And particularly when you bring in waves of them, as you mentioned during the Boris wave, they have no incentive to assimilate, because now you've got massive communities that where they're communicating in their own language. They don't need to adopt any new values. They're imposing their values, by the way, on these regions. And because of the internet, and this is actually something technologically speaking that is a huge barrier to immigration, or excuse me, to assimilation, is that they're not watching British media. They're not watching the Mike Graham show, right? They're watching media from back home. They're watching news from back home. They're on FaceApp or whatever, FaceTime with their folks back home. So mentally, they're not connected here. They're just treating the country as a zone for economic extraction.
And our governments have been complicit in all of this, not just by having such lax and useless immigration laws, but during COVID, for example, there's a place called Leicester, which is in the sort of East Midlands, just east of Birmingham, if you like. Very Asian, what we would call an Asian population, very Indian, Pakistani population, so much so that they sometimes have fights on the streets between the Indians and the Pakistanis, and you're kind of going, how did that happen? But during COVID, for example, when everybody was told you can't travel, there was a constant stream of travel going backwards and forwards to India and Pakistan from Leicester, which meant that they were never out of like special measures because they always had COVID, because they were always traveling. And I kept saying to myself, well, how are they allowed to do that? You know, I want to go and see my mother at the time, and my sister lived in Connecticut. I'm like, I'm not allowed to go to Connecticut, but they can go to India. How does that work? And so I think people in this country have started to see the complicit nature of the way the governments have mistreated kind of what you would call the indigenous population. And we feel now as if we've been somehow done down by all of these new policies.
Well, and it's something that I think bears repeating. The native people of Britain are the British people.
Yeah.
It's very clear about this, and yet it seems as though that it never gets spoken of this way. It never gets spoken of that, you know, when we say native people, you think of some far off country, and how we have to bring people from that country to your country. We hear the same thing in the United States ad nauseum. But we never once hear about the rights of the people who are actually there. It's always, what about the treatment of the immigrant? What about the treatment of the migrant? What about the treatment of the illegal? What about the treatment of the native population by these migrants? What about somebody like Henry Novak? What about the treatment of the people here? And I could go and list dozens and probably so many more cases that's the one that Southampton, you know, things that pop into my mind. What about the treatment of the people who, by the way, not only are the ones who are the backbone of Britain, but also the people who built this country with their bare hands all the way up. These things, these places, these cities, the attractions that I'm talking about, taking my my son to, the great characters like Paddington that obviously have gone international, and you know, obviously there's a list of thousands of shared stories and shared heritage there. That all of that can be lost. All of that can be lost if this one issue gets to the point where it's so unbalanced that it tips under, and you then create a population collapse, and people eventually decide to just leave.
Well, I remember when I first went to some of the cities in America that I hadn't ever been to before, like Detroit, and places like Milwaukee, maybe, like, you know, the centers of those cities had kind of been hollowed out, and they were kind of ghettoized. They were only really...
I'm from the Philadelphia area.
Okay, so Philadelphia the same. I mean, I was amazed at how some of those cities were just literally like wrecks in the middle, and everybody who had a little bit of money had moved out into the burbs, and they were kind of, you know, surrounding the city. But in the actual cities themselves, it was just poverty and mostly minorities.
Also done by government design, by the way.
Was it? Yeah.
Also done by, the idea was, oh, there's people in poverty, so we need to help them out. So the government then began moving them to inner cities. And And at the same token, as you say, here during COVID, they took laws and they didn't apply them to this population. We call it Section 8, public housing. And the same thing happened in my town, where my family lived for 100 years after we came from Poland. And they then started bringing in illegal aliens because people started leaving due to the crime, due to the drug use, due to all the other alcoholism, all the other issues. People started leaving if you had the ability to do so, so you would hollow out. So what did the government respond with? We're just going to bring in more people. We're going to bring them in from overseas. We're going to, now in our case, it would be typically Mexico, Latin America, South America, and they say, oh, well, we've got to up our our tax base, so we've got to bring these people in. And I can even remember going all the way back to right around the year 2000, so 26 years now, when my hometown, just outside of Philadelphia, was debating and then eventually did agree to allow Mexican consular documents to be used for government services. And I could remember even at the time thinking, how does this make any sense? How can someone who's not a citizen of my country come here and use these services, which I was told, and I'm Catholic, right? I was always told these are for the poor, these are for folks in need, these are for people who need them. How could you come all the way from another country and take something that was meant for charitable purposes of the people who live here? It made no sense to me. And it continues to make no sense to me.
It does, yeah, absolutely. And has it changed with the Trump kind of shutting down of the southern border to some extent, or has it gone too far already? Because I mean, something shocked me the other week. I was watching a news program about something or other, and Minneapolis popped up, and they were all celebrating Somalia Day, and there were all these Somalians, and you just kind of went, and we have the same thing here. But I didn't realise it was quite that, because that's quite a change from when I lived in the States. You know, when, as I say, when I moved back in '92, it didn't seem like that.
No, you can go look at the Mall of America right up there in Minneapolis, and there's some videos on YouTube of the day it opened in, I think it was the 1990s, and it's just, it looks like a bunch of Minnesotans up there. And then thanks to Barack Obama, we have all these policies to bring over Somalians, and he was systemically doing this in areas where they wanted to increase the population so that they could dilute the locals so they could get the voting that they wanted out of these areas. So you get situations where you have 15,000 Haitians sent to Southwest Ohio, Southwest Pennsylvania as well, Charleroi. You have people who are sent up to Minneapolis, as you say. You've got Dearborn, Michigan, where there's a massive Muslim population. Even places like Maine, just you think Maine is all the way up there. It's totally disconnected. And even Maine, Lewiston, Maine, has a massive growing Somali population now because of all this.
And that's kind of what's happening here as well, where it started with the cities, but it's now starting to spread out a little bit, like places. I mean, there was a terrible case in the courts yesterday in Brighton. 3 asylum seekers who all came here on boats illegally. Have just been sentenced to 70 years in prison for gang raping this poor woman on a beach in Brighton because she came out of a nightclub and they filmed it, and they were just awful. And Brighton is, a seaside town. It's not meant to be full of migrants. It's not meant to be full of people who are not in a seaside town. But the character of these places is changing very quickly.
You mentioned that because and you mentioned Trump because we had a situation with ICE, our immigration enforcement agency, had a shooting up in Biddeford, Maine, which is not too far from Lewiston, but it's a seaside town, place that my family used to take us up, for the summers, and just a quaint, quiet little seaside town. You'd think this has nothing to do with illegal immigration. And there's an illegal alien from Colombia who's there who points his car targeted at the ICE agent and goes to run him over. So the ICE agent defends himself, and now it's this huge controversy and people are protesting. But I think, to your point, it's a seaside town.
What's he doing there?
What is he doing there in the first place? How have we come to this point? And then you realize, and you talk about the cities, you talk about London, you talk about New York, and this is why, a decade ago or so, I would have said, well, this is an invasion. But I've come to the point to realize that you can't call it an invasion when they've been invited in by government policy. And this is something else. It is a wholesale outselling, a sellout of the people of our countries by the elite. And this is something that I think a lot of people still have to come to terms with, because in many ways, I know it feels like an invasion, and I'm not saying that there aren't similarities, But it's different because they've been allowed in,
Yeah.
and they've been allowed in to disenfranchise the people who built these countries, to disenfranchise families who are the backbones of these countries, and the elites don't care a bit.
No, that's a shocking thing to actually realise. But you're right, absolutely right. Well, Jack, listen, I can't believe we're out of time already, but I'm looking forward to seeing you this afternoon, where we're talking, I think, about the media landscape and how that's changing and what we can do to perhaps recapture the media for ourselves, rather than allowing the elites to control, what it is.
Parallel institutions like your incredible show. Where, I remember even early on in my career, you would have me on, and we would talk about Trump and the things that he was doing, and I've always appreciated you for doing that and helping me out, even when I was just starting out. And that's what it is. That's what we've done in the United States with building these parallel institutions, and I see it happening in the UK, and I think this is absolutely the way forward.
Yeah, definitely. So CPAC is going to be live streamed this afternoon. We'll put out a message as to where you can find it if you want to watch this on the panel. Jack's speaking as well before that down there. It's already ongoing, and it's going to be going on for a couple of days. So keep your eyes peeled. Meanwhile, coming up, Super Chat from Seaside Babe. Fresh eyes always see a different story. True. And another one from Bright Spark. Thank you for that. Any more? That'll do. Layla Cunningham coming up at 10 o'clock. She's next door in the UK Live studio. She'll, I'm sure, have plenty to say about the protection of MPs and we didn't actually get around to asking you about Anne Widdecombe, but we'll maybe do that this afternoon.
By the way, my condolences.
Yeah, I know.
This is a horrific act, and if it turns out that this was political violence, then, which it seems to be shaping up to be, that what it means is that the assassination culture of left-wing extremists has come from the United States to the UK.
Yeah, which is also terrifying as well. We'll see you tomorrow morning, meanwhile, at 7 a.m. Have a good day, and Layla Cunningham coming next.